That's funny. Okay, Shalom Israel. I hope everybody's doing well today. Shabbat Shalom. All the brothers and sisters who are turning in throughout for y'all consistency and giving us a chance to help give y'all the scriptures and enlighten y'all. We appreciate everything y'all do. Shout out Cabo in Guatemala and his congregation. Hope y'all brothers and sisters are doing well. And fighting a good fight. Shalom SOW, Houston, Virginia, and Rochester. Hope your brothers are doing well as well. We're going to go back into our topic concerning the Greek Empire and our intro into the Greeks. We're gonna finish this off today and get ready to go into the history of the Ptolemy and the Seleucid line that deals with that dealt with the Jews when they were kind of in our area. But we're going to that later. That's next week's class. Let's get our prayers in. Okay. Barakatah Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai.
Barakatah Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai.
Ha. Nothing to know. A war. Say the one. The water.
Aman. Bless you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai, that gives us light this day. Thanks, so be it.
Okay.
It's not smelling.
No, it's already burnt. Can you get this from him? Barakatah Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai.
Barakatah Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai.
Nothing to know. Rayach. Nayach. The water.
Aman. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai, that gives us a sweet savor. Thank you, so be it.
Amajim Wapunya Yerushalayim.
Stand and face Jerusalem.
Barakatah Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai.
Barakatah Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai.
Nothing to know. Shabbat. Shalom. The water. Aman.
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai, that gives us the Sabbath in peace. Thank you, so be it.
Okay. Psalms 121. Anasha, Ayanyamya, Ahoya, Ma'aya, Yabu'a, Isaiah, Yabu'a, Ma, Yahweh, Sha'asha, Shemaiah, Wa'aratiza, La'a, Yonathan, Lamawat, Regalia, Yala'a, Nawam, Sheshemoyah, Ana, Yala'a, Nawam, Wala'a, Yishen, Shemar, Yeshua, Yahweh, Shemaiah, Yahweh, Tizalia, Al, Yanyamya, Yad, Hashemas, Yala'a, Hakaya, Bayawam, Wala'a, Halabana, Balayala, Yahweh, Yashimoya, Makol, Rad, Yashimor, Napasha, Yahweh, Yashimor, Hawalaka, Rabu'ayah, Ma'aitha, Wa'at, Awalam. Aman.
I will lift up my eyes to the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in, from this time forth and even forevermore. Amen.
Amen. Israelite Credo. Shema Yasharallah, Yahweh, Eloheinu, Yahweh, Echad. Shema Yasharallah, Yahweh, Eloheinu, Yahweh, Echad. Shema Yasharallah, Yahweh, Eloheinu, Yahweh, Echad.
Hear Israel, Yahweh our power, Yahweh is one.
Okay. Lord's Prayer. Abanoah, Shema Shemaiah, Kodash, Hayah, Shemka, Yahweh, Malak Wafka, Taba'a, Ratazaka, Haya, Aisha, Barataza, Kawa, Haya, Bashimaya, Natan Manoa, Lachem, Ko, Yawam, Wasalachano, Chowathino, Kasalachano, Chowathino, Wala'a, Tabiano, Bonasawa, Abo, Hawashano, Mayan, Rai, Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwa, Waha'ala, Wahatapara, La'ai. Amen.
Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. And forgive us our debts, we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
Amen. Ten Commandments. La'ayahaya, Laka, Alahaya, Achaya, Aya, Hanya.
Thou shalt have no other powers before me.
Number 2. La'a, Ta'ayna, Laka, Basal, Wala'a, Ta'aybara.
Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, nor serve them.
Number 3. La'a, Talach Sham, Yahweh, Bashawa.
Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy power in vain.
Number 4. Zakar, Hayawam, Hashabat, La.
Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy.
Number 5. Kabat, Abaka, Ya'amaka.
Honor thy father and thy mother.
Number 6. La'a, Taratazah.
Thou shalt not kill, murder.
Number 7. La'a, Tama'a.
Thou shalt not commit adultery.
Number 8. La'a, Tagana.
Thou shalt not steal.
Number 9. La'a, Ta'ayna, Shakwar.
Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor.
Number 10. La'a, Ta'chamad, Ko, Ashura, La'raika.
Thou shalt not covet anything which is thy neighbor's. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives us the law.
Israel Yeshabim.
Take seats.
Okay, just a quick recap from last week's class. We are going into the history of the Greek Empire. And over the last few weeks, we've been given little snippets of the Greek Empire. 2 weeks ago, we dealt with Alexander, and we dealt with Alexander's encounter with the nation of Israel and all the events leading up to that point. And then last week, we went into, before we go full throttle into the Greek Empire, we want to finish out the writings that Josephus wrote. Not all the writings, just there was an aspect of the writing that Josephus talked about in against Apion in book 1 and book 2 that laid out the culture of the Greeks and how historically the Greeks had no culture, and then once the Greeks got into power, they started stealing culture and not validating or destroying or just discounting the history of the ancient history of the entire world. So either they discounted the history of the old world, or they chose to sit back here and put themselves in place of these different nations that were once in power.
Which is technically whitewashing, right?
That's exactly what it is, whitewashing, and it explains that a lot of our people look at the whitewashing of history as if it was an American thing or if it was maybe a medieval thing or after medieval times, this whitewashing process started as soon as the so-called white man came into power. So part of what First Maccabees chapter 1 and 9 talks about, when evils were multiplied on the earth, one of the greatest evils was the fact that a lot of ancient history was changed, removed,
and plagiarized.
or plagiarized. And it was kind of important, at least to me, to paint this picture and explain that history was starting to get changed as early as 331 BC, when the Greeks came into power, especially after Alexander died, and the empires were intact from Greece all the way to India.
So 3rd century history changed, narratives changed.
Because now there was no more war. So once the war was completed, now it was about changing the thinking of the world. Even when Rome came into power, they were still thinking like the Greek way. Greek culture superseded the Roman culture. The Romans were known for war and conquest. War and conquest, and getting people to buy into being a Roman citizen. But that Roman citizenship and that Roman belief system was still tied into heavily with the Greek culture.
It was the Greco-Roman
Empire, exactly. It's no different than the Anglo-American Empire, which is what we deal with now. You're dealing with America, which still has strong, close ties to Britain. They're still tied together. So the only thing that's changed from the 1800s to now is that America's in power and Britain supports, versus in the past, Britain was in power and America supported.
Yeah, Britain was in full authority.
So that's the only difference. But dealing with the Greeks, it was important that we just kind of gave a little sample of how the Greeks wrote, so we have a better understanding of this heavy spirit of Hellenization that we're going to read into. Because you got to sit back. When I first read First Maccabees 1, and I'm sitting back here and I'm looking at the Jews, and I'm like, why do these suckers want to go into gyms and be like the white man so much and wear togas and do all this freak stuff? What was the allure of being like the Greeks? Now reading about Against Apion, you start understanding how heavy the spirit of being like the Greeks was. Because they were sitting back here and making, if you were about your culture, you were a loser. You were a nobody. If you didn't go to their universities, you couldn't talk to them. And it made the Greeks the envy of civilization, versus our people just hunkering down and being proud of their antiquities or being proud of their history. Because it doesn't go into, when you read First Maccabees, the magnitude of Hellenization and how much peer pressure came behind being Hellenized. Because within 2 or 3 weeks of class, we're going to go into how the factions in Israel were split in half. More than half of the group wanted to be more like the Greeks than the Jews. Then you had the other half was fighting to keep the old history and maintain its significance.
Because there's a social stigma that's associated with not being a Greek. If you're not a Greek,
and this is why
a Greek.
This is why Josephus was defending our antiquity so hard.
Yeah.
Because we were being stigmatized as illegitimate.
Yes.
In the world. So you had a large faction was fighting for respect and dignity in the world, versus being okay with being the sons and daughters of the Most High, and the rest of the world look at you with no respect. This is where that Hellenization really came from. So going into this was important for that reason, to understand how that Hellenistic push made the Jew look and feel, and how we weren't respected globally because we kept our laws, statutes, and commandments. Does that make a little bit more sense why we would be more inclined to tap into the Greek clothing, the Greek fashion, the Greek way? It's still wrong, but it's important to understand why we got in so weak. We broke down, and why we sat back here and compromised and threw away our belief system just to fit in. And it makes more sense.
And the stigma was not as intense during the Persian period. There was You're a Jew. That's what you do.
Because evils didn't multiply until Esau came in. Because before the Persians let you be you. The Babylonians allowed different cultures to be who they were. And then even when the Greeks came into power, as long as we weren't globally affected with the peer pressure of fitting in, we would have been allowed to do our thing. Problem is, we succumbed to peer pressure. No better way to explain it. It was like high school again.
No.
I don't know if anybody had the truth in high school, you was going to get attacked by wearing shields and letting your beard grow or letting your hair grow.
Funny,
you was getting attacked.
Yeah.
Not partying on Friday nights. That's where all the fun is happening.
What's your problem?
So anyway, This is what's happening nationally.
Yeah.
But before we go into that national problem, let's go into how the Greeks initiated this peer pressure. Because we read earlier, hold this and go to Romans chapter 10 and verse 19. Romans chapter 10 and verse 19.
God.
Read that.
Romans chapter 10 and verse 19. But I say, did not Israel know? First Moses saith, I will provoke you to jealousy.
So what does it mean when it says the Most High is going to provoke us to jealousy? Just read it. Read on. Read it from the top.
God. It says, but I say, did not Israel know? First Moses saith, I will provoke you to jealousy by them that are no people.
He's going to provoke us to jealousy by them that are a no people. Now, we went all last week to explain how the Greeks were a no people. The Greeks were a no people because they had no history. They had no language. They had no identity. Everything that made the Greek was relatively new or late, is how Josephus explains it. Everything was late. They didn't start establishing any history unless it was the Homer poems. And the funny thing is the Homer poems were all oral history. The funny thing is the Greeks wrote like how people criticize Native Americans. Remember the Native Americans were, a lot of times they were, if it wasn't for like writers and historians like James Adair and in Mexico and Central and South America by guys like Fray Diego Duran and all these different Spanish friars and conquistadores that wrote history, there would be no history that we had. A lot of Native Americans didn't write history. Most of their tradition was oral. Yeah. And because of that, a lot of the understanding of our history and background was forgotten. Only a handful of tribes and people kept legitimate written history. And because of that, a lot of history was forgotten about, or you want to get bits and pieces from story times.
And legend.
But the Odyssey, the Iliad, all that was legend. That we're going to read later on that everything that Homer wrote, they said there was 3 or 4 different versions of all of those stories. Because they can't lock down one uniform scenario. So the so-called white man was no different than the Native Americans who aren't respected for their written history. And so they went from that to being the standard of intellect and intelligence. How did that happen?
Overnight.
How did they come from being a no nation and a no people to the standard of what everybody should follow? And that's what the jealousy kicks in. He said the Most High is going to bring us to jealousy by them that are a no people. We're going to be jealous of who? The Greeks' influence. We're going to want what the Greeks got. We're going to want what the Most High gave the Greeks. The power, the influence, the respect.
The authority of the earth.
And this is why everybody wants to be like him. Because he's got the power. And back in the time of the Hellenistic period, we were still subservient to the Greeks. A large portion of our money and finances was being shipped out to the Greek Empire to sustain the Greek machine, to pay for their warriors, to pay for their world dominance. So we were still bottom of the totem pole people.
So we were vassals as usual.
We were vassals, and then now we were vassals, and now we were respected less. I don't know if any of y'all have been to a white school. It's a little different than going to a black school. I've been to both. You go to a black school, they're going to laugh at your shirt. They're going to laugh at your pants for being a little old, your shirt for being faded. But then, you know, you can catch him slipping because next week he going to have some Jack and gear. You just got to wait till he has a week or two long on his fade. You got to hit his fade up for being off a little bit. You don't need my school out. They just make you feel like you're this small. Yeah. They got money. They're comfortable. They're smiling. And you're that broke kid on assistant lunch. You on school lunch. And they're sitting back here. When you go to the upper levels like high school and stuff, you get to purchase all your food. You sitting back here with this regular ass milk out, and it's regular like school lunch, and they sitting back here getting pizzas and slices and all this stuff. You sitting back here being the broke kid out, and they're looking at you like, "What's wrong? You don't want the pizza, man?"
Is your dad in jail, bro?
They said that. Is your dad in jail,
Is your
bro?
dad in jail? I'm trying to make you upset.
Yeah. But your dad kind of looks like a thug, man.
He's kind of.
Listen, one of my sons was actually approached that way. Man, your dad looks like he was a thug, man. Oh. He was in the hood. I was like, damn. Yeah. So I was sitting back here like this, with a gun out at. I'm a thug. Like, what does a thug look like? Right. What did I look? Was I walking with a tank top on? With a do-rag on? A tank top, a do-rag on?
My son.
Or just one color? Repping one color? What was happening, huh? But this is how, in their own way, they make you feel like you're nothing. Yeah. But this is how the Greek nation made our people feel. And he says this came from a no people. This no people with no identity in history and culture is sitting back here, the world power. And everybody got to lock into them if you want validity. He says, I'm going to make you jealous over this condition. What is the root of jealousy? I want what this person got. That's true. Isn't that what jealousy is? I'm going to make you jealous by a no people. Now the intention was to sit back here and prop up the Greeks and the Romans with the hope that we want to get back and serve the Most High better and embrace the Most High and serving the Most High. That was the goal. What did we end up doing? We became jealous of the white man and want to be like the white man. Wow. Because he had the power. We didn't take it the way we were supposed to take it. Let me get jealous that the Most High granted this nation a power who shouldn't be over us. Let us get our act together and serve the Most High. The action went reverse. Yep. Now we're trying to be like them. Yes, sir.
We lowered our standards.
Because they're in power. Yeah. And we couldn't see that this no people being in power was created to humble us. And instead, we want to sit back here and be like them so we can be validated as well. And this is what the Hellenization was all about that we succumbed to, which opened the door to what? Antiochus Epiphanes. So this is why we're setting it up this way, to get an understanding as to why we broke and why we caved in so easily and why so many of our people were trying to be Greek. Because it's trying to convince Jake, listen, it's okay to be who you are, serve the Most High. In our head, I want to sit back and have more than that. I want to achieve. They're no greater than me. Let's try to be like them. That's how we roll now. Yeah, true. I don't want to be a nobody. I want to have something too. Remember the whole time in the civil rights, we were trying to prove that we're just as good as this guy?
Yeah. I too am a man.
Well, once again, this is what we were doing during the Hellenistic period. I can read philosophy. I can tap into our philosophical nature. I can do that too.
And everything was about trying to equal them,
yes,
or beat them in their own game.
In their own game. That's Hellenism. That's being an American citizen. That's what being a sellout is. A schoolboy, a college boy, however you want to call it. I'm trying to fit in and prove that I belong.
Yeah.
Because that is the spirit that they put out there. That you're not better than us. Our knowledge, our wisdom, our expertise is superior to yours. So either, in their way, you get down and lay down.
Yeah.
And we couldn't take that humiliation. And instead of spiritually spitting it the right way, we took it carnal. Okay, so with all that being said, read verse 19 again in Romans.
Romans chapter 10 and verse 19. But I say, did not Israel know? First Moses saith, I will provoke you to jealousy by them that are no people. And by a foolish nation I will anger you.
And this is the scenario. This nation is foolish, and there are no people. And we're angered by their power, their position, and we're angry by how this foolish no people treated us. And how they spin history to fit their way. When in reality, we were God's chosen people from the beginning, and we didn't need to get into this competition to prove that we're as important as them. We were supposed to sit back here and figure out. The Most High put them in power, allow them in power, so that we would get jealous to embrace Him.
We played the Hank Aaron game.
A lot of people. The whole Negro Leagues was about proving we were better. But there was no need to do that. Because everybody knew when it was a Negro League All-Star team versus the American All-Star team, the Negro League All-Star team always beat them. They don't tell you that. But the Negro League All-Star team with Bob Gibson and all those Satchel Paige, they used to always beat your Babe Ruths and your Ty Cobbs. They would always lose, huh? The ones that was in the major leagues will lose in the Negro Leagues more times than not. But so why do I got to go in your league? We're already beating you. But there was a stigma that we were less than. It was that shame that came behind it. There was a shame that you weren't good enough. There was an attack at a man's ego. And that's how the Greeks sustained so much of that leverage over us. They convinced people that we were second class. The Greeks convinced the Jew and the whole world to look at the Jew like a second class citizen. To look at the Jew as a bunch of stories that aren't valid. That was how they won. Then they sat back and convinced us in the States that we weren't on so-called white man's level. That we weren't intellectually capable, intelligent enough, talented enough to operate on their level. So instead of sitting back here and just knowing it was a lie and staying in our cities, staying in our leagues, staying in our communities, we had to prove them wrong. We had to sit back and prove that we can die for the white man like they died. You see all them black moves in war? Yeah, we're gonna sit back here. We're gonna get us some Nazis. Like, who cares? Why do I gotta fight Hitler's people? He ain't got to do with me. He ain't worried about me. We were sitting back here proud to prove to the white man that we can die for him. You ever see Glory? When they sit back here, they fight. Let me go ahead and fight in this archaic war where you're going to die. You ever see how their military strategy at? You're walking straight ahead. You're in the front, and they're shooting at you. You're going to fall.
Aim, fire.
And you're here.
You're right there.
You're going to die.
I'm hit.
And then the next group comes. Tush, tush. Like, what the hell is going on here? Right? How does that military strategy work?
That's English style fighting.
It's horrible. What am I trying to say? Is we was fighting for that? To prove that we're capable of dying on the field like these Edomites in the Civil War? What kind of sense does that make? But that's how beat down and downtrodden we were, and how much we valued their approval. And it's the same thing back in the Greek time, same thing now. So, with all that being said, let Romans 10 and 19 go, and let's go to Josephus against Apion. Let's get you saluted in real quick, man. Slocky. We might need you today later on. I gotta.
Karaya, Shah Shabbatah, Bada Shah, Bada Shala.
Karaya, Shah Shabbatah, Bada Shah, Bada Shala. I'm at you. Yahweh Bada Shah Shabbatah.
Yahweh Shem Yashabrakatah.
There's Shabbatah. So we're going to go back to Against Apion, Book 1. We're going to go to paragraph 2.
Okay. Josephus against Apion, Book 1, paragraph 2. And now, in the first place, I cannot but greatly wonder at those men who suppose that we must attend to none but Grecians, when we are inquiring about the most ancient facts.
And he's like, I don't understand. He said, I'm greatly wondering why people are saying that we have to go to Greek history if we're trying to understand ancient facts. Why are we going to the Greeks for them to tell us if this is valid or not when their history doesn't start but around 700 or so BC? He's like, if you want to get ancient facts, why don't you go to the Hebrew history? Why don't you go to Egyptian history? Why don't you go to Chaldean history? Their history goes way before the Greeks. Why are the Greeks the standard of history and antiquity when they just started as a nation? This is the point. Who died and made them the authority on all matters history? Read on.
Okay. It says, and must inform ourselves of their truth from them only, while we must not believe ourselves nor other men.
And this is what is being implied and pushed on the people. The only history that matters is if it comes from the white man. If he doesn't validate it, it doesn't exist. If he doesn't co-sign it, it doesn't exist. Like we said it last week, it's the same thing we face in history when we're teaching in class. If we're sitting back here in a debate, if we don't have books from Edomite writers, from Edomite authors, then it doesn't count. We can sit back here, for instance, in the history of the North American Indians by James Adair. He was an Englishman that lived amongst the Native Americans. And in his many years of living with Native Americans, he noticed that their holidays, their dietary laws, their customs, the way they live, connects very closely to the lost tribes of Israel. Then you have Fray Diego Duran and this guy named Bartholomew. There's a bunch of writers of Spanish origin that wrote similar explanations when they were in Mexico, when they were in Central America, when they were in even books called the Popol Vuh, which explains like the Central American Guatemalan people and their connection to the Heavenly Father and their connection to the 12 tribes of Israel. All of these stories were validated by the monks and religious leaders that were there. But just sit back and reverse it a little bit. And if one of us sat back here and did that research, would it be validated? More than likely it wouldn't. You can sit back here and there's a guy named Rudolph R. Windsor. He's a black guy and he did research about the history of Israel and Africa. That book isn't even respected in the white community. We sit back and bring that book out and provide that as proof and explanation that we're God's chosen people and he's the author, it's going to be automatically discredited. This is what Josephus is saying. This is the truth now. If our people are talking this information and teaching it, it gets less and less and less traction. It's scoffed at. It's laughed at. It's not respected at all.
Yep.
But it only is respected if an entertainer says it. If an entertainer says it, it's okay. If an Edomite says it, this is why everybody was losing their mind when Vladimir Putin released certain images of Russian icons that had a bunch of black people on the paintings. Oh man, Vladimir Putin's dropping the truth. I'm like, we've been dropping that truth since the 80s. Those pictures aren't old. Those pictures are old, but we've been pushing that for years. But when we push, niggers, everything's blackity black for y'all. I don't respect y'all. But if Putin says, hey, he might have a point here. What message is Vladimir Putin trying to show the world today? You see the difference in how information is respected based on who's bringing it out? This has been happening since the Greeks came on the scene. And this is Joseph is like, what the hell is going on? Why is it that if it's not coming from a Greek source, if the Greeks don't say, yeah, that's true, then it's not true? So, let's continue.
For I am convinced that the very reverse is the truth of the case.
Read a sentence up.
Okay, come. It says, when we are inquiring about the most ancient facts and must inform ourselves of their truth from them only, while we must not believe ourselves nor other men. For I am convinced that the very reverse is the truth of the case.
He says he is convinced that you got to go to the original source to get the truth and not go to the Greeks. Because the Greeks are going to lie. They're going to spin the narrative. They're going to spin everything for them. They're going to spin every narrative for them. Okay? And this is what he's coming to the conclusion of in his writing. And this is the reality that we face. Let's continue.
God, I mean this. If we will not be led by vain opinions.
So what it says is the Greek teaching, the basis of what all education, historical education, is based on now are vain opinions. When you sit back here and look at these history books, the majority of history are just predicated and written based upon the who? The winners. The winners of the battles get to spin the narrative how they want to spin it. And now that the Greeks are in power, they're going to spin all the history the way they want to because it suits them. It suits their narrative. Read on.
But will make inquiry after the truth from facts themselves.
Mm-hmm. So he says, if we will not be led by vain opinions, but will make inquiry after truth from facts themselves. This is what we're supposed to go back to. Let's go back to the beginning of history to get facts versus opinions. Because what he's saying is there has been a historical shift of information since the Greeks arrived on the scene. Truth it's not about truth. It's how you spin something and how you paint a picture and how much political leverage you got. Okay, continue.
Line 7. For they will find that almost all which concerns the Greeks happened not long ago.
Everything that happened from the Greeks is not very old in history. Let's continue.
Nay, one may say, is of yesterday only. I speak of the building of their cities.
Their architecture is very new. How they built their cities is no historical basis from it. So what he's saying is, however they built their city didn't come from them. They built their city by seeing somebody else's city and parakeeting it. That's what he's saying. Okay? Read on.
The invention of their arts.
The invention of their arts. Their painting styles. Where did their styles come from? Their styles, more than likely, came from Phoenicians. Why do I say Phoenicians? Because the Phoenicians had already had an advanced society. And first of all, the fact that they're called Phoenicians is insane. Who called them Phoenicians?
Yeah.
The Greeks. They weren't the Phoenicians. They were the Tyre. They were Tyre and Zidon. Tyre and Zidon. Esau doesn't even give you the respect of calling you by the name you want to be called by. They were Tyre and Zidon. They're Tyre. Why are they called the Phoenicians now? Because it fits their narrative. They weren't Phoenicians when they were coming up here and selling goods to you guys. You don't think they were selling art to them? You don't think they were selling art and different things they took and mimicked? Where do you think they got their style from? Whether it was from the Phoenician traders or what was happening in the East, they mimicked everything from the East. And they started taking parts of the Eastern style and making it theirs. Art, clothing, letters. Read on.
It says, and the description of their laws. And as for their care,
Either said even their laws are plagiarized. Even their laws are plagiarized. Even how they govern their society is plagiarized. They got it from other countries. Yeah, get it real quick. Continue.
and as for their care about the writing down of their histories, it is very near the last thing they set about.
He said one of the last things they started doing is writing their history. And there was only one guy that had a halfway decent scribing of just a handful of poems they tapped into. And that was Homer. So before Homer, they had nobody else write history, and Homer was writing history around 700 BC. So what about their history after that?
Or before that?
There was nothing before that. There was nothing. Because whatever it's going to explain down the line, there was a lot of wars and internal wars, and whoever won destroyed the previous people's history and created their own. So this has been about taking histories and destroying histories. Well, let's continue.
Ron 8. However, they acknowledge themselves so far.
Now here it goes. He says, with all that being said, now the Greeks are in power. Now they acknowledge themselves as what?
That they were the Egyptians.
What the hell is going on? Now they're saying that they're the Egyptians? How does that even make sense? You're just going to steal a nation's 5,000-6,000 year history and make it yours? But like we mentioned last week, this is what they do in our present time. You'll sit back here, just because they say Beethoven was white, does that mean he was white? That's the point. There's a lot of people that they say are white, but they really can't prove it. Just because there's a painting of them doesn't mean that painting is true. This is the catch. You don't know who's who. Knowing this now, knowing this information, and knowing this the character of the Greeks, you really can't trust. When it comes to the identity of people, you can't trust it. They didn't say the information, the mathematics, or the science that the Greeks were dropping were wrong. What they're saying is who was the author behind it was wrong. So when you're looking at Edomite history, white history, you can't determine what's correct and what's not correct. The funny thing is, I hope I have this image. No. Do I have it? There is an image of
In other words, they're intellectually dishonest.
Hell yeah.
And when we say intellectually dishonest, I mean they're bending facts, they're bending events to fit the cultural narrative they want to project on other nations.
Okay.
That's what that is. I'm gonna bend this, and this. The same way they do with news.
Oh, don't go to news because that's gonna be another part of it.
Okay, well, another day.
No, today. It's a little today.
Okay,
it's
well,
a little later in the class.
But the same concept is about taking information and twisting the information to where you're the supreme society and everybody else is the subservient society. This is how you program people with narrative. And they're children. Yes, sir.
And I was going to say, modern day times where we at right now, when they say that the Egyptians, you can even see that through the movies and everything like that, how they paint themselves as these characters. And
Oh, yeah.
not, you know what I'm saying?
They always still did The Last Samurai.
Thank you. I always forget that one. The Last Samurai, man. Listen, the white man was the coldest samurai of them all.
The Japanese,
First of all, these Japanese people
here's Tom Cruise.
practice swordsmanship and fighting every day for 40 years.
And their feudal
And this white man sits back here and learns it in 3 months and is whipping everybody's ass. Are you serious?
Yes, they're serious.
And they're like, and then they just show days of him getting his tail kicked. And the last day, month, date 90, stalemate.
Yeah.
You're like this. Good job. You are ready. You're my equal.
You're superior.
What? 90 days surpasses 40 years of fighting? This guy is that cold?
He was a post officer before. He was just delivering mail.
He was a drunk.
He was like, oh, yeah.
So first of all, 30 days is just drying up. Then because it was only for like the winter season dries out. So it was just a winter, and he learned it all in the winter, bro.
Drunken master.
He's cold as hell. Listen, I got a picture online right now that shows an image of Etruscan architecture. Etruscan architecture, the Etruscans were the people that the Romans conquered. The Etruscans were our people. Are historically linked to men of color. Let's just go there. Historically linked to men of color. The architecture looks like the architecture that the Romans used to build their what do you call it? Their senate houses and all their structures. That's Etruscan. But it sure the hell looks like it's a Roman facility. So when the Romans conquered the Etruscans, what did they do? They just housed their buildings. They just took their buildings over and said, "This is ours." This is not the Etruscans. This is Roman architecture. It's the same thing.
The highest standard in the land.
They just took the stuff on top, took it off, took the little animals off the top, and said, "This is ours." This is the Roman architecture. This is how they roll. They steal art. They steal temple structural styles, architectural styles. This is what they do, man. It is inside. I got another one for you. They just steal everything they can and call it theirs. This looks like one of those Roman Senate houses out here. This is a Roman Senate house. This is Etruscan. This is ancient Etruscan art and architecture. Why did the Romans call it Roman? All they did is took a style that was already established and just made a couple minor tweaks and said, "This is the spirit. This is the Greek way." When it's not the Greek way. This is insanity, bro. Let me see another one. Listen, right, this is a really good one right here. Let me get this out and go here. This looks like Roman senate houses. This is Roman structures where all the pillars.
Yeah. Very heavy on the
That's Etruscan. That is not Roman. That's not white. But historically, remember we've always said, yeah, man, the United States governmental buildings, that's Roman. That's Etruscan. They stole that too. They stole the architecture and called it theirs.
Wow.
Language, art, belief systems. They steal everything. Then they said they're the Jew. The Greeks first one said, no, man, the Jews, their belief system is whack. And then when it became popular, yeah, we'll be the Jew. It's the same thing.
Me too with the Jew.
Like I said, the Last Samurai is the perfect one. Listen, that was a slap in the face to anybody who took the art of samurai swordsmanship serious.
All the Asian actors out there, he can't be the main character. Tom Cruise, come on,
bro.
It's you.
And you're gonna be the one that leads. You're gonna teach them about what really being courageous is.
He teach them honor.
You're gonna teach them honor. Yes, that one.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if you've seen it. 47 Ronin.
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves.
Mm-hmm.
He became one of them.
Yeah, come on,
Same
man. Yes, 47 Ronin. Come on, man. You just how anyway. Con.
But it's consistent.
It's consistent. Lines up to the law. Hell, you sit back at old movie, The Ten Commandments, with Charlton Heston, The Egyptians were white, the Hebrews were white, the Canaanites were white. Everybody's white. Everybody in history is white. And this is where he's saying that this weird. The Greeks are Egyptian now. That means the Greeks are white now.
The Lone Ranger. The Lone Ranger was a brother.
No, it wasn't. That's not the movie. That's not the TV show I saw.
No, the Lone Ranger was a brother going in, taking people to jail. Right? That's what he was doing. He was by any means necessary. Well, guess what? Look on TV. That's the Lone Ranger. I think the guy's name was Bass Reeves.
Bass Reeves, yeah.
Bass Reeves' a brother.
Is that what I saw on television? Was that what I saw?
Vlad the Impaler, the real Vlad.
Yeah, it was a brother.
Was one of us.
Yes. You're never going to read about that. We're completely whitewashed from history.
Yes.
When you sit back here and watch all those movies about the Romans and their conquering of the Germanic tribes and the peoples in Britain, there was one that had Channing Tatum in it when he was young. And they went into, I think it's called The Eagle or something like that.
That was it.
And they went into the fortresses of the people of Britain. And what they don't tell you is the people of Britain, it says Roman scholars say the people of South Britain were swarthy. They were dark-skinned. And they said the swarthy people of South Britain more than likely have connections to the Gauls in France and Spain. The ones that Julius Caesar conquered, the difficult fights he had to get Rome established was against our people. Julius Caesar took out black people in Spain and France before he made his way down to Carthage and wiped out black people in Carthage. There wasn't no white folks in Carthage, and there wasn't white folks in Spain and France, and it wasn't. Well, they were still. Listen, let me take it back. They were white people all around Europe, but there was also black people. His history tells you people of North Britain were white, blonde hair, or red hair. They said they had a lot of red hair. People of South Britain were black. People of France were black. People of Spain were black. This is facts. People in the Germania were black and white. That's the truth. And I wouldn't doubt. And the country of Gaul and France and Spain, they were black and white too, because that was the whole thing. It was always Esau versus Jacob. Everywhere you look. In Rome, you had Etruscans who were black, and you had Romans who were white. In Greece, you had black Greeks and you had white Greeks. This has been going on. So if it's in Greece and it's in Rome, it was in Britain and it was in Spain and it was in France and it was in Germany and further north. It was both all around Europe. They'll never tell you that though. You got to sit back here and dig and dig and dig and find history. Even Tacitus, this writer, ended up saying in his writing that the original Hebrews looked like Ethiopians. But they'll never sit back here and quote him. What am I trying to say? They've been lying from jump. And all the inventions that we sat back and made, they don't talk about us making the inventions we made to make this country what it is.
Or that we were the Spartans.
Mm-hmm.
That we were the Spartans.
Yep.
The Spartans, according to Josephus, which is historically accurate, were brothers, Lacedaemonians. Lacedaemonians, which they call Spartans. Lacedaemonians. Say slack for saying it wrong. Lacedaemonians. But according to them, they are Sparta. This is Sparta. They're getting glory off of this. They're Russell Crowe. Or yeah, Russell Crowe is Jermaine and Brandon. Right? They get to play our roles. This is just what they do. This is the Greek way.
And all we're saying is it started in Greece. Yeah. It started in Greece and worked their way down. So, what he's saying is, they acknowledge themselves that they were the Egyptians. So they took all the culture and the history of the Egyptians then. This is why when the Ptolemies, the ruling family of Egypt, they immersed themselves into the culture. These Greek Ptolemy means like a king. They immerse themselves in the Greek culture, start dressing like the Greeks, and rolling like the Greeks, and acting like they're Greeks. So they brought a lot of Greeks down to assimilate and act like they would bring their culture. They just adapted their culture into the Egyptian culture. There's a lot of history that shows that the Ptolemies were dressed with their paint and their makeup and their clothing scheme that the Egyptians had, but they were Edomites. One thing that Esau got correct is that Cleopatra was white. Cleopatra was not black. Contrary to common or popular demand, Cleopatra was not black. She was white. And Cleopatra was a queen name like Ptolemy was a king name. There were multiple Cleopatras. And all those names started kicking in when the Greeks conquered Egypt. But anyway, let's continue.
Line 8 says, however, they acknowledged themselves so far that they were the Egyptians, the Chaldeans, and the Phoenicians.
And when you sit back and go into their history, the only beginning nations culturally that they acknowledge, you'll sit back and read it in any history book. You're going to read about the Chaldeans, you're going to read about the Egyptians, and you're going to read about the Phoenicians. And it's really not Phoenicia, it's Tyre and Zidon. But you always read about those three nations because they took the bulk of their history and culture from those three and acted like it was them or acted like they were doing this and together, because all they were doing is saying that they were doing trade with the Egyptians from the beginning of time. That's how they tie themselves in with the Egyptians. Yeah, we were always with the Egyptians. We're just a boat ride away. We did a lot of trade with them, and we shared ideas, we shared approaches. That's how you feed the line. Oh yeah, we were there in Egypt. We're with the Egyptians. We were there with the Phoenicians too. And yeah. Way back in the day, we were there with the Chaldeans, putting science together, doing mathematics together. And who's there to sit back here and disprove it? Because everybody who disproves it gets isolated and boxed out. So after a couple of generations, think about this. If Esau, we're going to read later, they acquired all these history books and just switch the names out or just change the writing. And they kept the books. They kept the books and created their own Greek version of those books. So what books were maintained over time? You think the Egyptian books were kept over time? And if they were kept, you think they were kept in Egypt? They were sent to Greece. Or before that Greek library was destroyed in Alexandria, all the books that pertained to anything got sent up to Greece, into Europe, or Rome. But you think the ones that were in original Chaldean manuscript and Phoenician manuscript and Egyptian manuscript were kept? Nah. Just the Greek ones were kept. And now you've washed away everybody else's history. Just like that. There wasn't no data files. There wasn't no cloud back in the day.
No USB drives.
It was just the books. And all you gotta do is change the translation to Greek and everything's good. We got our history now. And that's why they say so civilization started with the Greeks, and how much of a bold-faced lie is that? Civilization started with the Greeks. Let's continue.
It says, for I will not now reckon ourselves among them that have preserved the memorials of the most ancient and most lasting traditions of mankind.
Now what we got to do to tie this in with the scripture, let's go to 1 Maccabees chapter 3 and verse 48.
First Maccabees chapter 3 and verse 48, page 118. It says, and laid open the book of the law.
This is the Greeks. When they finally entered into Jerusalem, and they were breaking us down, and they were sitting back here and defiling the temple. As they were defiling the temple and sacrificing pork on the altar and all that foulness, they laid open the books of the law, the scriptures, our history. Read on.
Wherein the heathen has sought to paint the likeness of their images.
This is what they were doing all across the board. Let's get your history book and inject ourselves into your history. This was a tactic that was done to all countries that they invaded. You invade a country, you gain power and subject yourself in the country. Now we're going to put our faces in these books. We're going to sit back and insert ourselves into your history. And sooner or later, you're going to realize your children or your children's children are going to know that Greek or Israelite history is really Greek history. This is how they've been doing it. This is how they did it in Egypt, the land of Chaldea. Because by that time, Babylon was nothing. It was a shell of what they once were. So once the Greeks came in, hey, this is how we're going to do it. And if you say something against it, you'll be ostracized, banned, or killed. So this is how they do things, is that they laid open the book of the law.
Wherein the heathen has sought to paint the likeness of their images.
Bro, and this is what's happening. This is how they how the beginning of how they whitewashed history is by doing this. Okay? Let that verse go and go to Romans chapter 1 and verse 21.
Romans chapter 1 and verse 21.
We're going to go from verse 21 to 28.
Okay.
And let me get there real quick. Read that, sir.
Okay. Romans chapter 1 and verse 21. Because that, when they knew the Most High, they glorified him not as the Most High, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations.
Read that again from the top.
Okay. Romans chapter 1 and verse 21. Because that, when they knew the Most High, they glorified him not as the Most High, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations.
Listen, after Alexander died, did any of these Greeks give the Most High any type of credence and respect for giving them their seat and authority? Remember, there a lot of Alexander's Greek counterparts were like, why are you sitting back here and bowing down to these priests? These Hebrew priests, who are they? They didn't have a respect for the Most High, or they didn't have a respect for just that spiritual side, that priestly side of the world. They didn't have that kind of respect. Alexander did, but after he died, none of these other people glorified the Most High and acknowledged the Most High gave the Greeks their position and their authority. So the Most High wasn't given his proper respect. Let's continue.
It says, and their foolish heart was darkened.
He said, but read it from the top again.
Because that, when they knew the Most High, they glorified him not as the Most High, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations.
They became vain in their imaginations. How does a person become vain in their imaginations? Inject themselves into every part of history.
Yeah.
Let me put myself in every part of history and say, I did that. I did that. We did that. My great-great-granddaddy did that. That's where the vanity of imaginations kicks in. Read on.
And their foolish heart was darkened.
The foolish heart was darkened. And then we're going to sit back here and take away all dark-skinned history. Not just us as Hebrews. They took the Egyptian history away, the Chaldean history away, and the Phoenician history, which was Canaanite. They took Canaanite, Hebrew, Egyptian, and Babylonian history off the board. All dark-skinned history that had any value was just blown off and replaced with white history. This is why you don't see any black history, any dark-skinned history of any dark peoples. You don't see it. Read on.
Verse 22.
And this is the birth of Western philosophy, Western civilization. You can't have a potent Western civilization unless you eliminate Eastern civilization. Or you trivialize Eastern civilization. And this is what happened. Continue.
Verse 22. Professing themselves to be wise.
Who's the ones professing themselves to be wise? This no people that took over the world is professing themselves to be the epitome of knowledge, the epitome of education, the epitome of civility, poise, philosophy, education,
On every level.
discipline, honor. They paint themselves to be the epitome on all levels.
Or the father of this, the father of mathematics, the father of medicine, the father. They also did the father of something.
Yes.
They pushed their figures as the father of the concept. And
Yes.
that's why it's wrong. The actual
You think Pythagoras is the one who made all that math up?
That's what they pushed on.
I know.
So they'll insert themselves the father of mathematics, the father of medicine. When they say that, that is the twisting of the history.
You're discounting the Chaldean who learned this. You're discounting the Egyptian that learned this. You're discounting the Hebrew that taught the Egyptian the information. We're going to hold this. And let's go real quick to Josephus, book 1. Josephus, book 1. Book 1, chapter 10, paragraph 2. Book 1, chapter 10, paragraph 2. Yeah.
Page 39. Antiquity of the Jews, book 1, chapter 10, paragraph 2. So Abram.
No. Did I say 10? It's, no, it's 1, 8, and 2. That was my fault.
Page 38. Antiquity of the Jews, book 1, chapter 8, paragraph 2. It says, for whereas the Egyptians were formerly addicted to different customs.
So we're dealing with ancient Egypt in their inception. He says the Egyptians, early Egyptian antiquity, they were addicted to different customs, different belief systems, different religious beliefs, also different educational systems. Read on.
And despised one another's sacred and accustomed rites,
Mm-hmm.
and were very angry one with another on that account.
There was a lot of confusion amongst their scholars and leaders and religious leaders. Read on.
Abram conferred with each of them.
Listen, Abram sat back here and pretty much united all the factions. United all the religious factions. All the different group factions. He brought them together. They were warring with each other. Don't forget, he came from Chaldea, where they were warring with each other even back then about the one God or the multiple God theory. So he was already used to these type of a conflict. So let's continue.
And confuting the reasonings they made use of.
He says, and what he says, and doing what with the, he says,
Confuting.
okay, No, wait. I'm trying to make sure I got that. Okay, I have a different word, but no, I got it. I got confused. So confuting their reasonings. Read on.
Con. It says, everyone for their own practices demonstrated that such reasonings were vain and void of truth.
So he's sitting back here and attacking the Egyptian thought, Egyptian philosophical thought. And he's able to sit back here and go at all these different factions to show them that they're all wrong. So who's teaching who? A Hebrew is teaching the Egyptians. So let's continue.
God. Line 167. Whereupon he was admired by them in those conferences as a very wise man and one of great sagacity. When he discoursed on any subject he undertook, and this not only in understanding it, but in persuading other men also to assent to him.
So listen, he had the ability to get people to see that they were behind and they had to learn more. He was skillful in that ability. A lot of people can't do that because most people will get in the fight when they say, man, you missing the mark on this. You off on this. Most people, you know why? You can't have pride when you're correcting somebody. When you're getting somebody to see themselves, you have to remove ego out of it as much as possible. That's the only way you can get a bunch of people to acknowledge that they're behind and off and listen to you. That's a very difficult thing to do. But let's continue.
He communicated to them arithmetic and delivered to them the science of astronomy. For before Abram came into Egypt.
So what he's saying is, he said he communicated to them arithmetic and delivered to them the science of astronomy. So who taught the Egyptians math? The same math that was taken by the Greeks. The Greeks took the Egyptians' math principles. But who taught the Egyptians the math principles? Abram. So really, the Greeks took our knowledge of mathematics and made it theirs. So the Greeks are really stealing our information. This is why it's so important that Josephus was laying down these breadcrumbs. He said Abraham taught these people mathematics and science. So obviously, this was 4,000 years before the Greeks came into power. So Abraham taught them the foundation principles that established their civilization down the line and established a lot of their educational writings, their academic writings came from the foundation of Abraham teaching them how to look at things the right way. Read on.
Line 168. For before Abram came into Egypt, they were unacquainted with those parts of learning.
He's telling you, they didn't know about mathematics and science on that level until Abraham came down and taught them. So even when you're reading that the Greeks sat back here and made the Egyptian knowledge theirs, they really made our knowledge theirs. But they seemed, and they were successful in wiping us out the picture totally.
This is the academic information of the Hebrews. We're not even getting to the spiritual and societal information on how to run a society and govern society and deal with people and deal with laws and structures with organizing a structure of people. We're dealing with this strictly academic information, mathematics,
science, the information that can't be lied. You can't fluff that
These
information.
are physical principles that are proven.
Yeah. So once again, the Egyptians were unacquainted with math and science at this level until Abram taught that information.
And what book is that? What is the
1, 8, and 2. Book 1, chapter 8, paragraph 2.
Line 168.
So read, he communicated to them from that part.
Okay, he communicated to them arithmetic and delivered to them the science of astronomy. For before Abram came into Egypt, they were unacquainted with those parts of learning. For that science came from the Chaldeans into Egypt, and from thence to the Greeks also.
You see how he's writing that. Now you kind of understand why he writes the way he writes. He's trying to make sure you understand the Greeks didn't have no part of this. Abraham learned what he learned from the Chaldeans. Okay? And then he brought the information he learned and sent it to the Egyptians. The Egyptians built on that concept. 4,000 years later, the Greeks get it and say it was theirs. But the Greeks had no part of this. They weren't sitting back here. They had no math at this time. They weren't even a country. Or they weren't even a civilized country. They were a people out in Europe fighting and killing, fighting and killing, fighting and killing. And they were cultured by dark-skinned nations. And then once they got the culture, they said it was theirs. So now the Egyptians don't get the respect they deserve. The Chaldeans don't get the respect they deserve. We didn't get the respect they deserve. And the Tyrians, Sidonians didn't get the respect they deserve. Because these people are a bunch of thieves and plagiarizing people. So let that go.
I got to pull one thing out.
Go for it.
It's just some simple stuff right here I was seeing. Archimedes, right? How did Archimedes discover buoyancy? Right? Archimedes is this great guy, right? He's an ancient Greek mathematician, physicist, engineer, astronomer, and inventor of the ancient city of Syracuse in Sicily. Right? He's just a great guy. While he was pondering in his conundrum, Archimedes went to the public baths to relax. As he slipped into the water, he noticed some spilling over the edge, and he suddenly had a flash of inspiration. The displaced water must have exactly the same volume as him. He discovered buoyancy. Now, if you know anything, ships deal with buoyancy, right? When a ship's in the water, it floats because the principle of it pushes, it pushes away the water under it by force, but the force of the water under it keeps the boat up too, right? How did Archimedes discover buoyancy when there were already ships there were already ships in the world? There are already ships out there. People already had ships and been shipping and been going across the ocean and been through the Mediterranean Sea, but the Greek man Archimedes pops up, slips in the bathtub, and he discovers buoyancy. He discovered it. But there were already ships in the world. He probably rode on a ship. But he discovered buoyancy. That doesn't make any sense. This is what they do. They discover things. They discovered America. And there's always people over here. They discovered South America. There's always people over there.
How do you discover those?
They slipped in a tub of water. I discovered buoyancy.
Discover something that already exists.
But there's ships out here floating across the ocean right as he speaks. These are just extreme lies, bro.
And then listen, they say that, but then you read later on, Columbus is like, I want to go to where the lost children of Israel are, because I know that's where the riches are. So which story is correct? You knew they were there.
Yeah.
You followed the scriptures. You followed history.
Yes.
So did you follow history or did you discover it? Which one was it?
Which one was it?
Did history point you out there to it? Knowing you got still black man's jewelry at?
Yeah. I discovered
that was that?
I discovered it.
Brother, keep going.
I found it. Then it says, the Archimedes, it says, which law did Archimedes give? Physical law of buoyancy. Archimedes' principle is the physical law of buoyancy, discovered by the ancient Greek mathematician and inventor Archimedes, stating that any body completely or partially submerged in fluid at rest is acted upon by upward or buoyant force, the magnitude of which is equal to the weight of the fluid. So the ship doesn't go to the bottom of the ocean because there's an equal force pushing it up based off of where it's at, right? How did he discover that when there's already ships? There's already ships. It's not like they invented the ship. The person that invented the ship discovered buoyancy. Oh, this floats. I can use this principle to get food and to go travel. But he falls in the bathtub and he invents buoyancy. They give their fathers the accolades for all the major principles to take away glory from the previous societies.
Yeah.
And then they praise these men. They praise them. And they give them this praise. And they make you praise them by going to school. And you have to learn Greek history. You got to learn the Greek way. And so you got to write your papers and get an A on your test by praising these men. But simultaneously, you're being indoctrinated. And you're being Hellenized. And you're being whitewashed. To where you're older, you believe they did everything. They created everything. They made everything. But it's not true. It's intellectually dishonest.
Kind of. So where are we at? Let's go back to Romans now.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Romans. It was 1 and 22.
Yeah, Romans chapter 1 and verse 22. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools and changed the glory of the uncorruptible power into an image made like to corruptible man.
This is what the Greeks did. This is what the Romans did. They took the glory of the incorruptible power and made it into corruptible man. This is why the Romans later on, they sat back here and took the image of Caesar Borgia. Leonardo da Vinci sat back here and said, this is the image of Christ. But that changing likenesses didn't just start in the Renaissance period. The image of changing the likenesses of our people happened years before. It just didn't start. When you hear, brothers explaining things about how like Napoleon blew off the nose of the Sphinx. If you sit back here and look at Diocletian and they had images of him, and he was sitting back here. His whole image was intact except for his nose. Why would his nose get taken out? Because you can't tell if that image is black or white if you take the nose off the map.
They made everything right except the nose.
So we're going to take that nose off so you don't know if that's a black image or a white image.
Yep.
But if you got this long nose out like this, okay, the gig is up. That's a black guy.
You can't lie about that.
But you can't. It didn't start at that time. It started in the Greek time.
Yep.
The whitewashing of society. We read it in the Maccabees. They were sitting back here and replacing the incorruptible power with corruptible man. First of all, putting the idea that anybody puts an image to the Heavenly Father is blasphemous. It's really a graven image. Any image that we put up and say that's Christ, that's a graven image. It was a purposeful reason that the Most High never had an image connected to who he was. It talks about that in Exodus and Numbers. There ain't supposed to be a face, any type of creature attached to the Heavenly Father. That was part of their foolishness. They're sitting back here and trying to tie in their identity to history, and they started going on to the spiritual side and trying to attach themselves to deities and even the Heavenly Father. So read verse 24 again, or 23 again.
Romans chapter 1 and verse 23. And change the glory of the uncorruptible power into an image made like to corruptible man, and to birds and four-footed beasts and creeping things.
He says the idea of trying to attach the idea of the Heavenly Father to a man or to nature was an abomination. Read on.
Verse 24. Wherefore the Most High also gave them up to uncleanliness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves.
So the thing is this, with all that Greek education, all that Greek excellence, they still were sitting back here and corrupt and committing abominable acts. I really can't go on all details online versus getting banned, but the homosexuality, the bestiality, all that stuff was going on. But at the same time, they acted like their knowledge was superior. How they ran society was superior when they operated like beasts. This is what Paul is explaining to the Romans, but he's going at the Roman thought, the Greek thought, it's the same thing. Read on.
It says, who changed the truth of the Most High into a lie.
That's a good question. Who is the one that changed the truth of the Most High into a lie? Who's the one who most nations before the Greeks, they allowed you to believe in your God with no interference. And there wasn't a push. Well, the Persians, for example, didn't sit back here and say, yeah, man, this idol that we serve in Shushan, you guys got to follow this. Hell, even the Babylonians didn't say that. Now, us living in the city, they pushed it. Nebuchadnezzar did it, and when he did it, he got stung. But as a nation, us living in our country, they weren't forcing us to follow their belief system. That happened with the Greeks and the Hellenization of the Greeks and the Romans afterwards. They're the ones who changed the truth of the Most High into a lie. Read on.
God. And worship and serve the creature more than the creator.
Because the way their society was set up was to get the entire world to worship and reverence Greeks, their own people, and not the Most High. That was what the indoctrination was all about. The whitewashing of history was all about, to get everybody to worship them, to reverence them, to uniformly buy in that they're the superior nation. This is what all this is about. This is what Josephus was fighting to keep our culture and heritage important, sacred, and valued. Knowing damn well that the majority of Hebrews were in Africa at that time, or slaves in Rome. I guess, and they said somebody got to keep this history, because we're about to be forgotten. We're about to get wiped off this map.
The Most High preserved it for that purpose.
Khan.
So, okay, I'm going to preserve it to a secret.
Khan. So let's continue.
God, who is blessed forever. Amen.
Read on.
For this cause, the Most High gave them up unto vile affections.
He said because the Greeks and the Roman way was about pushing everybody away from the Most High and to push everybody into serving them, he said the Most High gave them over to vile affections. And if you sit back and look at the Greek Empire, what was the downfall of the Greek Empire? All the people were too comfortable. They were all into their own lust. And to the fact that all the foreigners came in, took all the jobs, took all the structure, and it talked about the Romans grew lazy in their empire.
They were woke.
They were woke, they were comfortable, they were lazy. Listen, when you say a person's woke or lazy, they're into their affections.
Yeah.
They're into their lust. He said he gave them over to their vile affections.
Yeah.
What people don't understand is they grew effeminate. Just like Israel grew effeminate and we got our kingdom taken from us. Just like the Egyptians grew effeminate and they lost their kingdom. It historically tells you when the people get comfortable, when they get effeminate, they get caught up into their land and their houses and their comfort and their servants. It's only a matter of time before another country comes in and destroys them. So Esau was getting caught up in their comfort and not about maintaining their discipline and their order and their strength. And they began to fall. Well, read on.
For this cause, the Most High gave them up unto vile affections. For even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature.
He says their men were going against nature, their women were going against nature. Everybody start changing their roles up, having a different set of values. And the further and further, what it's letting you know a country's about to fall when their morals start to get thrown out the window. There's no order, there's no morals. There's nothing morally and spiritually that tethers them to doing the right thing. He said he gave these Romans over to their lust. He gave the Greeks over to their lust. And that's right before you fall. But continue.
27. And likewise, also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burn in their lust one toward another.
He's telling you all the gender roles are flipped upside down. Their priorities are flipped upside down. Their lust is enhanced and fed amongst each other. The men and the women are guilty of
Well,
it.
their whole society was so prosperous that they had the time to give their conscience to researching the flesh,
Okay?
going deep and analyzing every element of the flesh.
God.
That's why they have vomitoriums.
Vomitoriums.
Yeah, they have vomitoriums, bro.
I don't know what that's all about. Maybe I don't want to know what
So a
that is.
vomitorium is where you eat so much and you get so full, and then you just spend the whole day vomiting, and then you eat more. Because it's all about the pleasure of gastronomy, which is just different textures of food. I know this. I love to eat. I love to get my eat on. But the whole point is, it's about indulging in different types of food, and you eat to your heart's content, and then you vomit and get it all out, and then you keep eating and enjoy and indulge in multiple flavors. And they had these birds, right? They had pies filled with bird tongues, right? So they had every flavor, every texture of meat you can find. So it took like 100 birds, or maybe like 1,000 birds. I'm just, I don't know the exact
Bird count.
but it was just a pie of bird tongues. It's bird tongue pie. So how many birds did it take to create one pie?
It's a meat pie?
Yeah, it's a meat pie, but the pie is made out of bird tongues. So they had so many items and so many delicacies and so many types of foods that they would just spend their whole day eating, the wealthy, their whole day eating and trying different foods, and they would vomit it up and then try other sets of foods and vomit it up and try different sets of foods. That's the vomitoriums. So that's how intense they were into just that one particular lust of the flesh, that one type of particular fleshly desire. So let alone the other fleshly desires that are going on. So they were going in that direction.
Bro, this is horrible. But our people were caught up in that lust, and it was uncontrollable. The nations were. And we fell right into those places. When we was in Greece and Rome, we was locking right into it. But let's continue in Romans. Thawam, let's get you saluted in.
Thawam Rachab, Shal Shavata, Bana Shar, Bayasha Allah.
Thawam Rakha, Shoshamata, Banashar, Banashar, Amaju. What? Yahweh Hashem Yashrakata.
Yahweh Hashem Yahshar B'Ktam.
Okay. So let's do, we're at Romans chapter 1 and verse 28.
Romans chapter 1 and verse 28. And even as they did not like to retain the Most High in their knowledge, the Most High gave them over to a reprobate mind, to do those things which are not convenient.
So we know all this about Esau, but we were just mostly focusing on how they changed the glory of the uncorruptible power into the image of corruptible man. Okay, and it tied in with 1 Maccabees chapter 3 and 48 about how Esau's thing was to put themselves in the position of the Most High, the Egyptians, the Chaldeans, and the Phoenicians. So with that, let's get back to the Josephus and against Apion. And we are at, however they acknowledge themselves so far. I don't know which one, that number that is, because I have a different Josephus in here. Okay, it's in the middle of paragraph 2 of Against Apion, book 1. And it says, however.
That's
Okay.
line 8.
Okay.
Line 8. However, they acknowledged themselves so far that they were the Egyptians, the Chaldeans, and the Phoenicians. For I will not now reckon ourselves among them, that have preserved the memorials of the most ancient and most lasting traditions of mankind. For almost all these nations inhabit such countries as are least subject to destruction for the world about them. And these have taken especial care to have nothing omitted of what was remarkably done among them.
He says these other countries took extra care to not omit anything, but that information has been forgotten in exchange for the Greek information. Read on.
But their history was esteemed sacred and put into public tables, as written by men of the greatest wisdom they had among them.
So we're going to hold on to this real quick, and we're going to jump somewhere else into Josephus. This is Josephus, book 12. Paragraph 2. I'm sorry. Book 12, chapter 2, paragraph 1.25, and to the end. And we're going to go over this line next week also, but this ties into the point here also, so I want to go there. So we're going to start where it says, let me see. The occasion was this. So once again, this is book 12, chapter 2, paragraph 1, and it's like a quarter ways down. And it says the occasion was this.
Book 12, chapter 2, paragraph 1.
Quarter way down. The occasion was this. Demetrius Valerius, who was a library keeper. Anybody else know where it is? Have y'all found it yet?
I got it. The occasion was this. Demetrius Valerius, who was library keeper to the king.
So this was library keeper to Ptolemy Philadelphus, which is the second Ptolemy in the reign of Ptolemies. Okay, read on.
Was now endeavoring, if it were possible, to gather together all the books that were in the habitable earth.
Why in the hell were the Greeks trying to gather all the books that were in the inhabitable earth?
Operation Change It All. That is
That's what it is.
Oh, we gotta get all the books, y'all.
Just for
We'll pay
because
whatever.
we love reading books. We just love reading books. This was a literal thing. The library keeper was to sit back and find all books in the earth. Why? Why would a person do this? Why would a nation do this? Why would a nation say we gotta get all the books on earth?
We just value the information.
Yes, but first we gotta catch up. That's the point. We gotta catch up. That's exactly what it is. We need the books because we don't know nothing about nothing.
Oh yeah, math. Yeah, multiplication.
1 plus 2 equals 3.
You get 2 apples,
Like
and then
this.
you times it times 2 more apples, and you have 5 apples. Maybe no, you have 4. My bad.
Doing this.
Exactly.
3. Listen, they had to sit back here and catch up first.
Or 1 plus 1 is 1. What's that actor's name? The new actor, the dude played It's Hard Out Here for a Pimp. That dude.
Oh, come on, yeah.
He said 1 plus 1 is 1 now. Like he said, you can get 1 drop of water.
Don't go into that, Craig. That was what I said. I used to see a white man for proof of this. This guy don't make no sense.
He said,
I don't know if
you
y'all
get
saw it was Terrence Howard
Terrence
talking
Howard.
mathematics
He changed the game,
nonsense
bro.
act on Joe Rogan. I said, this guy, I gave him 5 minutes. I said, I was like, I'm getting off this thing. He said, yeah, I remember when I was in my mama's womb. Get out of here.
You remember they like this?
I remember when I was in my mama's belly. Just swimming. Just kicking my feet. I'm like, get out of here. Lie. He said, I swear. And he said, yeah, I told my wife to put a flashlight on your belly because my daughter's going to remember this. When she come, like, get out of here, Act.
Listen,
What are you talking about?
He's making us look bad.
That's why I said, listen, can we get this guy off the mic? Anyway. Anyway.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
That was very frustrating. Yeah, but he had to cut him. That's another story. But yes, that's why I said I ain't the white man's answer for this because they don't believe this guy. I don't believe.
He'll keep the records. He'll just say, his little game is, I did it. I did it first.
Okay.
I discovered this.
So this is when, as you can see, this is what we're going to go into next week. After Ptolemy Soter was the first, there was a general that worked with Alexander. Mm-hmm. He does his thing in Egypt, establishes his empire. His son Philadelphus comes in. Obviously, wartime is over. Now it's time to pick up Greek thought and pick up the education of the Greeks. So let's get all the books we can find in all the known world from these dark-skinned people and get these books and read them. But keep going.
The book of Josephus, chapter 2, and line 12. Demetrius Valerius, who was a library keeper to the king, was now endeavoring, if it were possible, to gather together all the books that were in the habitable earth and bind whatsoever was anywhere valuable or agreeable to the king's inclination, who was very earnestly set upon collecting of books.
His focus was getting books so that we can get all this information and translate these books into the Greek tongue so we can elevate the knowledge of our people. Then we can shoot this information back to Greece and eventually form universities and catch up and get ahead of the world. What do you think else the thinking was for? They have to catch up first. Read on.
All the books.
To which inclination of his Demetrius was zealously subservient.
Mm-hmm.
Line 13. And when once Ptolemy asked him how many 10,000s of books he had collected.
That means they had over 10,000 books of all type of learning. How do you think civilization, air quote, became with the Greeks? After they heisted 10,000 books, said it was theirs. That's the biggest plagiarizing angle ever in history. 10,000 books from different philosophies, and they took the best of all those 10,000 books and said, yeah, we wrote that. That's our book. Mm-hmm. This is Greek book. This is Greek thought. See how excellent this book is? It's crazy, But it all happened in Egypt. Read on.
He replied that he had already about 20 times 10,000.
They had 20 times 10,000 books of knowledge.
So they had 200,000
books of knowledge and understanding.
They got it all,
They got a lot of it.
All people's life's work.
And this, but you know, they were smart for doing it. They were ingenious for doing it.
Great. But historical life's work and all the accomplishments of previous societies.
Yep.
That's power.
And the history of everybody else's civilization.
Power.
I know.
And to compress and organize it into structured information
into different countries
that they could use and leverage. It's like having Solomon's mind.
Mm-hmm.
They have all this information, and they get to sit here and have think tanks now. You can structure think tanks and groups, and this is you're responsible for this. You're responsible for this. Now you can roll as a secret.
That's how you can control the world.
I'm not behind anymore.
That's how I can sit back here. That's how Hellenistic thought became powerful. Because it wasn't like it was idiotic talk. There was a lot of education behind it.
Yep.
They took this education and spent it their way and made everybody else's way inferior.
Yeah.
But you know what they did? They cataloged.
They did.
They cataloged everything.
They are right.
They cataloged everything.
What they did was wise.
They translated it and they cataloged it. And what the criminal thing is that they said it was theirs. But this is how it started. It started with just learning and reading and learning and reading and acquiring. Then we said, okay, we got it. Now we can say it's ours. But it started from a humble position. They're paying for the knowledge. They're paying for these books. But keep going.
But that in a little time he should have 50 times 10,000.
Damn, bro. They don't have 500,000 books soon enough. This is in one man's
So
lifetime.
they're multiplying information. Huh?
Con. I mean, they got people sitting here reading these books. Because what we're going to read about is that this is the time when they asked the Hebrews for their Bible. This is when the Septuagint was written. At the same time. We're going to that next week. But they got the Bible too, and the understanding about what the Bible was about. Right here at this time. Well, let's continue.
Line 14. But he said he had been informed that there were many books of laws among the Jews worthy of inquiring after, and worthy of the king's library, but which, being written in characters and in a dialect of their own, will cause no small pains in getting them translated into the Greek tongue.
So you see how initially they said, man, there's some valuable books in the Hebrew libraries. We really need it. But then 100 years later, man, oh, it was nothing. And the Hebrews had nothing to give, man. Everything changed. The Hebrew history isn't legitimate. But when they first started, they said, man, there's a lot of books we can learn.
Yeah, listen. They're taking, because they can take the concept and apply it to their society and discard it.
It's no different than you at the job and the boss brings a guy under you. You got to train them. And they're very appreciative for you until they know your job. Then they get rid of you. Yeah. It's the same thing. Yeah. They're humble to the Jew because we want to know what you got. But now that we got what you got, we don't need you anymore. Now we're going to say you don't matter and your history don't matter.
Just like the native. Yeah. Teach us how to plant crops and survive the winter. Thank you. I'm going to kill you after this.
It's the same thing, bro.
His words were smooth as butter,
yep.
But war was in his heart.
Yeah.
The same nature.
This is how they've been rolling. But let's continue.
Line 15. That the character in which they are written seems to be like to that which is in the proper character of the Syrian, and that its sound, when pronounced, is like to theirs also, and that this sound appears to be peculiar to themselves.
And the thing, what you do understand about the Greeks, that their willingness to study and learn supersedes a lot of people. Who the hell is going over 500,000 books? Who's doing that?
The man who cares.
Every day you're knocking out books. You are reading the cuss out of books out. And they had enough people committed to that. That is how they stayed on top of us for so long with the Greek Empire. And this is how they stay on top of us in America.
Now.
They want to put the work in, Israel wants to eat turkey and chicken and just boss on people, and flex on people.
I'm the boss.
But listen, you got to read, you got to study, you got to learn your enemy, you got to keep pushing the envelope with science. This is why all these nations, they're fighting for the next new science, the next new ingenuitive approach that can set us above everybody else. That's why Russia's ahead of everybody else right now, because their science is ahead of everybody else. Their war science is ahead.
Can't be touched. They stay back in the cut. While
and learn, and they spent their money more effectively, militarily, on more air defense, missile defense, and we can't stop their bombs. We cannot stop their ICBMs. And they said, we can shoot whatever we want, you ain't going to stop it. Point is, they understood this was Esau's strength. His mind, and the sword, his ability, his proclivity to the sword, and really his psychological warfare, is second to none. We're going to sit back and read 500,000 books to subjugate the entire world and make the world inferior, psychologically inferior to us? You know how much work you got to do to get in front of people like that? We're talking about how wicked it is, but their ambition, their hunger is unexplainable.
Exactly.
Their desire to stay on top, you can't beat that. You got to tip your cap.
They're feeding for that spot.
Listen, and they going to keep it. You got to respect their initiative and drive. Yeah. But anyway, let's continue.
Yes, sir. Wherefore he said that nothing hindered why they might not get those books to be translated also. For while nothing is wanting that is necessary for that purpose, we may have their books also in this library. So the king thought that Demetrius was very zealous to procure him abundance of books, and that he suggested what was exceeding proper for him to do. And therefore he wrote to the Jewish high priest that he should act accordingly.
So listen, all this goes into is how they're sitting back here and this hunt for 500,000 books of all the people of the region. They got the books from Ethiopia, Egypt, the Chaldean Empire, the Phoenician Empire, our people, the Persian and Median Empire. Everybody that was anybody, they learned their information and they made the information theirs. That was the point. Let's go back to against Apion. And it said, but their history was esteemed sacred and put into public tables as written by men of the greatest wisdom they had amongst them, Thawam. And so now it's, but as for the place.
Line 10?
Mm-hmm.
Line 10. But as for the place where the Grecians inhabit, 10,000 destructions have overtaken it, and blotted out the memory of former action.
So what he's saying is 10,000 wars, 10,000 destructions of their records and these different civilizations is why the Greeks have no history. All they've been doing is fighting each other back and forth. Whoever the victor is destroys all history. Next guy comes in, takes over that group, destroys all history. Next person comes in, they take the next group out, destroys all history. So he's saying, he says 10,000 destructions. What does Esau do when he gets into power? He destroys your history. That's what they were doing to themselves in Greece for the thousands of years. Part of conquering the city-states that were adjacent to them, they would destroy their history. That's what they did. No other nation was doing that. So when they took over the world, they still destroyed people's history. They just acquired and learned the history, and they translated it first. Then they destroyed your history. You see how that makes sense? We're going to destroy your history and then make it our history. So they're still in the same pattern of what they were from the beginning as to why they're behind in the first place. He says they're behind because they keep fighting each other and destroying each other's history. So now by the time they get on top, all you got is history from 700 BC on. Continue.
So that they were ever beginning a new way.
Read on. Keep going.
So that they were ever beginning a new way of living, and suppose that every one of them was the origin of their new state.
You see how they're saying? The Greeks were fighting for thousands of years doing the same thing. We wipe you out. This is the origin of the history of Greece. Another country wipes them out. Our history is the new way of how Greece used to always be. Another Greek city comes in and takes over. Where our history was the first history. They've been doing this. That's why they're always starting over again. Because they can't just acknowledge the beginning of history and not destroy it. So he's telling you what's in their heart is to destroy the vanquished history. Hold this and give us St. John 10 and 10. St. John 10 and 10.
St. John chapter 10 and verse 10. The thief cometh not, but for to steal, and to kill, and to destroy.
That's how you know who the thief is. Wherever they come, they're destroying something. He's telling you the Greeks' mind was always to destroy. Wherever they conquer, they're going to destroy and take their history and say it's our history. We're going to wipe you out and say it's us. He says that's how you know who the thief is. He comes in and takes what ain't his. He destroys you, he kills you, He takes from you, he kills you, and he destroys you. But he destroys your history. He destroys your identity. He destroys who you are. And this is why we're in America thinking we're Negroes. Or we thought we were colored. We think we're African American. He destroyed our heritage. He took it away from us. But this has been their MO since the Greek times. It ain't just America. It ain't England. It ain't Europe. It's from the beginning. Their Edomite original position was that. Okay. Continue in the Josephus.
Line 10.
Yeah, let's do it again.
But as for the place where the Grecians inhabit, 10,000 destructions have overtaken it, that they were ever beginning a new way of living, and suppose that every one of them was the origin of their new state. It was also late, and with difficulty, that they came to know the letters that they now use. For those who would advance their use of these letters to the greatest antiquity pretend that they learned them from the Phoenicians and from the Cadmus.
Go back. It says it was also late.
It was also late, and with difficulty, that they came to know the letters they now use.
He said it was hard for them to figure out their own language. And it was late, meaning it was late in history before they even settled down with a language to speak. When you sit back and look at the Greek alphabet, people be thinking it's ancient as hell. Like it was written in the olden days. This was in 700 BC when they started putting together their language. They knew how to fight, though. They've been fighting their whole life. But outside of fighting and killing and war, they didn't have any history. Continue.
For those who would advance their use of these letters to the greatest antiquity pretend that they learned them from the Phoenicians and from Cadmus.
He says they pretend they learned it from the Phoenicians. You sit back here, I don't know where this book I had is, but it goes into the idea that they got their, they says, I said it in class last week, but I don't know where this book went. It says it probably, they said the Phoenicians, they said that the Greeks and Phoenicians used to trade in the 3,000 to 4,000 BC time. And that's probably when their language was written. They always say probably and maybe more than likely, but they don't even know. But Josephus is right there. He's like, listen, it wasn't, this writing was late. They didn't have this writing a long time ago. They barely just put this language together. So all this history you're reading about, the Phoenicians, they got their writing from the Phoenicians around 3,000, 4,000 BC. It's not true. It's brand new language. But they're sitting back here and telling everybody else's language is irrelevant. Well, let's continue.
Line 11. Yet is nobody able to demonstrate that they have any writing preserved from the public monuments.
No, any writing preserved from that time.
Oh, sorry. Any writing preserved from that time, neither in their temples, nor in any other public monument.
So they're saying is, there's no history that writing had been written years ago. If that writing was done years ago, you would have it in caves, you would have it in temples, you would have it in monuments, but you can't find that writing anywhere on any of their historical landmarks. So if the writing is nowhere in their historical landmarks, it's because they didn't have it. We can sit back here and scientists can go in and see Paleo-Hebrew from years ago in certain monuments and locations and caves and stuff. That's how you know, hey, this was X amount of thousand years ago because this writing was been going on for a long time. They're saying you couldn't find that Greek writing in any of their ancient places because they didn't have that writing back then. They weren't using letters and words. They wrote like cave people or undereducated people. That's why they were starving for 500,000 books. Like, I gotta have these books. We need them. We gotta have them. We don't have no stinking history. Now listen, it gives you understanding about what 1 Corinthians 1 and 23 is all about. Go to 1 Corinthians 1 and 23.
First Corinthians chapter 1 and verse 23.
It's 22, I'm sorry.
1 Corinthians chapter 1 and verse 22. For the Jews require a sign.
Israel wants to sit back here and see something pop out the sky, or something fall out the sky, or they want to see something dramatic to happen to confirm that the Most High is with them or against them. Read on.
And the Greeks seek after wisdom.
Because they don't have any history of their own, they're going to seek after wisdom and all the learning they could possibly gain, because they're playing from behind. So they're going to make it about knowledge and history and learning, so eventually they can steal it and say it was theirs. But this is where it says the Greeks seek after wisdom. Read on.
But we preach Christ crucified, unto the Jews a stumbling block.
Listen, Christ dying is a stumbling block for the Jew who wants to just sit back here and stick and hold on to the Old Testament. Christ's life and Christ's death is a stumbling block to the Jew that wants to be Torah only. Okay, read on.
And unto the Greeks foolishness.
Living spiritual, servicing the Most High, and living your life and living your life full of discipline and self-constraint and sacrifice, that's foolishness to the Greek mind. And the way to prove that goes in the Wisdom of Solomon chapter 2. But the Greeks don't believe in that spiritual life, but they believe in acquiring knowledge and information. And they use that knowledge and information as leverage over the rest of the people on the earth. Let Corinthians go and go back to Josephus and Apion.
This appears because the time when those lived who went to the Trojan War so many years afterward is in great doubt. And great inquiry is made whether the Greeks used their letters at that time. And the most prevailing opinion, and that nearest the truth, is that their present way of using those letters was unknown at that time.
They didn't know about these Greek letters until later on, after the Trojan War. They're saying after the Trojan War is when they started developing letters. That's crazy. But let's continue.
However, there is not any writing which the Greeks agree to be the genuine, among them ancienter than Homer's poems.
Pretty much they don't have any, they can't agree to any genuine writing before Homer's poems. Read on.
Who must plainly be confessed later than the siege of Troy.
And they said his writings didn't even start getting written until after the siege of Troy. So think about this. If his writings weren't written until after the siege of Troy, then that means the story of the Iliad and the Odyssey were just spoken word stories. Because if there's no literal physical evidence there, it's just a story that Homer heard about and wrote about. So it's still not a book of evidence and a book of history of the Greeks, because there's no account of anything being there. There's no writing. They said there's no writing. If there's no writing, how can you have an account of what happened versus it being oral history? And if it's oral history, then how legit is it? This is what Josephus is saying. Read on.
Nay, the report goes that even he did not leave his poems in writing, but that their memory was preserved in songs, and they were put together afterward.
He's telling you, there were songs, there were lyrics to a song out. And they made this whole book off of song lyrics out. And no imperial evidence and proof. What is he saying? That the Greek way of establishing history was still a lie in itself. And there was no proper history to back up the Iliad, to back up the Homer's classics, the Trojan War. What you gonna say?
I actually looked it up while you was talking about it. It says Homer's poems, the Iliad and the Odyssey, are generally thought to have been written down in the late 8th or early 7th century BCE. However, the exact date is debated due to the poem's long history of oral transmission.
But you see how they first said it was written? Then they said, but it was oral history. So which one is it? Was it written or was it oral? They want to establish, they want to tell your mind it was written historically. But really, we're not sure. Because there was a bunch of songs and poems that Homer put together to make the book. So there was a lot of filibustering and filling in to a song. You're just writing now. You're just adding information to the story to make it sound dope. So how accurate is it? It's not. But you see how they mask this Greek history. They give you a little bit of truth when they say, well, however, there's different parts to it that we can't really explain. But let's continue. This is what he's saying. Read on.
And this is the reason of such a number of variations as are found in them.
There are a lot of variations in the stories. Read on.
As for those who set themselves about writing their histories, I mean such as Cadmus of Miletus and Acasillas of Argos, and any other that may be mentioned as succeeding Acasillas. They lived but a little while before the Persians' expedition into Greece.
Mm-hmm.
But then for those...
So he said this guy Cadmus and Acasillas, they were around just slightly before the Persians came in and started conquering the Greeks. That's not a long time ago. I would say the 400s, the 300s. I would say the 400s. 400 BC. Read on.
But then for those that first introduced philosophy and the consideration of things celestial and divine among them, such as the Pharisaids, the Syrians, and Pythagoras, and
Pythagoras,
and Thales, all with one consent agree that they learned what they knew of the Egyptians and Chaldeans.
There you go. The Pythagorean theorem. They said they learned it. Pythagoras, the guy who made all that mathematics, said, I learned what I learned from Egypt and Chaldea.
But they're saying
this here,
guy.
But they didn't sit back here. The Greeks, the history don't say it that way. Greek history don't say it that way. This guy's Greek and made this up. He's telling you.
He's the father
of this, and this, and this, and this. And they never give credit to who they learned from in the Egyptian writings or the Chaldean writings. They keep telling you it's plagiarized. Their knowledge is plagiarized. Their mathematical and science foundations are all stolen. This is what it is.
So he's this guy with the little button up, cardigan on, and the glasses, the little frames, circle frame glasses. He just, he knows so much. He read so many books. He understands so much. He's so prestigious.
So many leather-bound books.
He has leather-bound. He's prestigious. He's been to this school, and he's certified. He's a doctor of this information. This is a game.
But this is what's happening, man. So they say, Pharisaids, Pythagoras, Thales, all with one consent agree that they learned what they knew of the Egyptians and Chaldeans and wrote but little. But they just plagiarized the information. This is the information, and I'll say a few words on top of it.
They didn't contribute anything to it.
They just said, in my opinion, this is good information. Here it is. But it was all. What it said is they wrote very little. It's plagiarized. When you sit back here and you write a paper in college, and you use 75% of the information and put it in the paper, is that paper accepted?
No.
They said this is plagiarized work, sir. How can we give anybody credit for this? Wow, I just thought I want to take credit for it. You can't do that in the writing world. You can't take people's credit and not give them credit. You can't take their writings and say it don't give credit. But this is what Greek history did all the time. just never gave credit to who did the work. Keep going.
And these are the things which are supposed to be the oldest of all among the Greeks.
These are the oldest learned people of the Greeks. And they took their information from the Egyptians and Chaldeans. Read on.
And they have much ado to believe that the writings ascribed to those men are genuine.
And everybody believes that those writings are genuine and genuinely came from these Greek people. But they themselves back then they said, well, don't forget, this is in, he's talking in 97 AD.
That means
the people are already hoodwinked, thinking that Pythagoras and these guys wrote this information, but really they said it. We didn't write none of it.
This is the peak of the lie.
I know this.
Wow.
This is the peak of the lie. And Josephus was like, am I taking crazy pills here or something? How come nobody else sees and everybody's lying? This is where he's coming from. This doesn't make sense that nobody's believing that this is a load of crap.
You don't know anything.
It was Pythagoras, man. He was the smartest man alive.
I don't know why you
He's
say
got so
this.
much wisdom. This is crazy. So what they're saying is the math and science guys lied. Later on, you're going to read that the philosophical guys that took spiritual concepts and made it philosophical, they lied and they took it from the Bible. So from the philosophical, Esau calls it philosophical. We call it spiritual. Or the meat and potatoes math and science guys, they stole both angles and both sides of education.
Philosophical and academic concepts.
Yes, philosophical, spiritual, academics, theft. Because that's what philosophy is. You read about the writings of Marcus Aurelius? That was just spiritual thinking. But Esau don't give credit to the Most High, like we read in Romans.
They said Marcus Aurelius was being taught by his slave teacher.
We're still dealing with the same concept, though.
Yeah.
Esau don't give credit to the Heavenly Father. They'll just give credit to philosophy and teachers that taught me how to look at things from a philosophical approach. They use philosophy versus being spiritual. That's a way to remove the Most High from the equation.
True.
So that I get respect for all these fancy words I'm saying. If I sit back and say, man, the Spirit don't roll like that. See, now you give the Most High credit when you say the Spirit don't roll like that. The Most High don't want you to do that. But if I say, yeah, man, when a man sits back here and operates with discipline and self-restraint, the people will respect him. Bravo! So much wisdom! This is a learned man!
Quoting the greats.
But you don't want to give the Most High no credit.
Yeah.
That's philosophy. It's all pride and ego. Anyway, so, but with all that information, nobody talks about where Esau really came from. And what is real, he don't talk about that. He don't talk about where he came from.
Not important.
Let's go into where he came from now.
Okay.
So we can sit back and have a better understanding. Did civilization really start? Did the Greek civilization start with Greece? Or was there something that happened before Greece? We got to sit back and prove that also. So what we're going to do is go to Esther, chapter 3, verse 1. I think it's 3, verse 1. I could be wrong. But just a quick clarification. The Apocrypha was written and put together and accumulated between 200 BC and 100 AD. Okay? So this is why a lot of the writing is in Greek. Like Apocrypha is Greek for hidden books. So a lot of the writing the writing in the book is in a Greek kind of language. So we got to keep that in mind. Why is this important? Because the Greeks read this also. If this was written in Greek, you don't think the Greeks read it? And maybe if the Greeks read it, maybe we understand why they were pushing off and not certifying the Hebrews very well. Okay, so let's go to here real quick. Esther 3 and 1. Let me get there before you read it. I think I'm wrong on this. Let me see. Let me see. Is it 3 and 1 in the Bible? It's not in the Bible. It's not in the Bible, for sure. It's in the Apocrypha. It's not 3. I don't know why I put 3. Give me a half a second. No matter of fact, let me see. You know what? It is in the Bible, 3 and 1. It is in the Bible. This is important to go here. We start there in the Bible, and then we'll go to the main point in the Apocrypha.
Okay. Esther chapter 3 and verse 1.
Okay.
After these things did King Ahasuerus promote Haman, the son of Hammedatha.
Now we know Ahasuerus, this Ahasuerus is really talking about Xerxes. Okay. So Xerxes sits back here and promotes Hammedatha or Haman. Matter of fact, it's Haman. Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite. This is important. Haman, the main protagonist against Mordecai and Esther, was an Agagite. Okay, so when you read about the Agagites, you know the names are kind of like hard to kind of put together. So be a little patient with me when we go into Agag. He's an Agagite. Haman is. Let that go and go to 1 Samuel. 1 Samuel chapter 15. Verse 1 through 9. And then 32 to 33. 1 Samuel chapter 15. Verse 1 through 9.
1 Samuel chapter 15 and verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
Samuel also said unto Saul, the Most High sent me to anoint thee to be king over his people, over Israel. Now therefore hearken thou unto the voice of the words of the Most High.
Okay, so Samuel was given an order by the Most High to approach Saul at this time, which was the king of Israel, and said, listen, man, the Most High has an order for you to execute Saul. Don't mess this up. Read verse 2.
Verse 2. Thus saith the Most High of hosts, I remember that which Amalek did to Israel, how he had laid wait for him in the way, when he came up from Egypt.
So the Most High is like, I remember how Amalek sat back here and got in the way of us when we were trying to sit back here and work our way to the promised land. And how Amalek was resistant against us. Remember the war that we had with Amalek was when Joshua really shined. That was when Moses had to keep his hand up. And as his hand dropped, we were losing. And as we were winning, he kept his hand up. So going through history, Joshua gained a lot of respect in that war. Okay, so he said, I remember how Amalek was anti us. Now, just a quick thing. We'll keep going. We'll read about Amalek real quick. So keep going.
Verse 3. Now go and smite Amalek, and utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not. So
listen, he's like smite Amalek and utterly destroy everything they have. Don't spare anybody. Read on.
But slay both man and woman, infant and suckling, ox and sheep, camel and ass. He
wanted all of Amalek to get wiped out. Now, historically, hold this. We'll wait. Keep going.
Verse 4.
So once again, we're going into Amalek to explain who Haman was. Okay? Haman was of the family of Amalek. We're going to find out why. Read on.
Verse 4. And Saul gathered the people together and numbered them in Telaim, 200,000 footmen and 2,000 men of Judah. And Saul came to a city of Amalek and laid wait in the valley.
Okay.
And Saul said unto the Kenites, Go, depart, get you down from among the Amalekites.
So the Kenites Who were the Kenites again? The Kenites were non-Israelites that followed the laws and served the Most High and were always allowed to live and operate on the outskirts of Israel. Okay, so Saul was like telling the Kenites, get out, because we're about to wipe out these Amalekites, and we don't want to sit back here and come at y'all, because we're cool with y'all. Read on.
Get you down from among the Amalekites, lest I destroy you with them. For ye showed kindness to all the children of Israel when they came up out of the land of Egypt. So the Kenites departed from among the Amalekites. And Saul smote the Amalekites from Havilah until thou comest to Shur, that is over against Egypt. And he took Agag, the king of the Amalekites, alive.
So now we're getting this Agag guy. So Agag, he was of the royal family of the Amalekite people. Agag was a king. So that means that's the royal line of people. So when you think about Haman, Haman comes from the royal family line of the Amalekite people. He was royalty. Just keep that in mind. So now we're reading about this Agag, king of the Amalekites. Read verse 8 again.
Verse 8. And he took Agag, the king of the Amalekites, alive, and utterly destroyed all the people with the edge of the sword.
So he kept him alive, and I would imagine he kept his family alive. Okay? He kept that one guy alive, Saul did, and the family. It doesn't say family, but you got to put two and two together in this situation. Read on.
But Saul and the people spared Agag, and the best of the sheep, and of the oxen, and of the fatlings, and the lambs, and all that was good, and would not utterly destroy them, but everything that was vile, and refused that they destroyed utterly.
So what he said is, Saul didn't follow orders. The Most High told Saul to wipe out all of Amalek. But he wiped out just the bad and the uncomely, but all the good sacrifices and Agag and his family, he kept them alive. Now, jump to verse 32 and 33. Now, if you read it, this is when the Most High cuts off Saul. He's done with Saul at this point. But I just want to get to the point that what Samuel does, after he tells Saul, the Most High ain't with you no more, then he sits back here and he kills Agag. Let's keep going.
1 Samuel chapter 15 and verse 32. Then said Samuel, bring ye hither to me Agag, the king of the Amalekites. And Agag came unto him delicately. And Agag said, surely the bitterness of death is past. And Samuel said, as thy sword hath made women childless, so shall thy mother be childless among women. And Samuel hewed Agag in pieces before the Most High in Gilgal.
So Samuel killed Agag, but somehow Agag's lineage sustained all the way to the time of Esther. It had to have. Why would there still be an Agagite left if Agag was the last of the king royalship to last? Doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
So go back to Esther 3 and 1.
Esther chapter 3 and verse 1.
Read that.
After these things did King Ahasuerus promote Haman, the son of Hammedatha the Agagite.
So once again, Agagites were still on earth. Agagites were still on earth at this time. So all the Amalekites weren't wiped out, and to be specific, all of the ruling class of Amalek wasn't wiped out yet. So the ruling class of Amalek was still intact. Okay? So, now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the edition of Esther in the Apocrypha. Let me see. Let me see. I want to get there. Okay, so it's It's 16 and verse 10.
Right?
Yep.
The rest of the books of Esther, chapter 16 and verse 10.
Now let's make sure we got this right. Haman in this writing is called Aman, because I told you that Greek writing is different. But we also know that Haman, his dad was Amadatha, right? We know he is an Amalekite. And we also know that this Amalekite was what? He was an Agagite. But it didn't get specific in the Bible what an Agagite was or an Amalekite was. It didn't get specific, but the Josephus, the Apocrypha gets specific. So read verse 10.
Right, page 57, chapter 16 and verse 10. For Aman, a Macedonian...
Stop. He says Haman was a Macedonian. Haman was a Greek. But we just read in the Bible, in Esther 3, that Haman was an Agagite. So what he's saying is that the Greeks understood, we understood, that Haman, that main protagonist against Mordecai, was an Edomite. Was a Greek white person. Y'all get that?
Okay.
The Agagite, the Amalekites, was really a Greek. Okay? And we also know that Agag and Amalek is Esau. So there's a reason that the Greeks don't want to sit back here and tie their history in with us. Because if they tie their history in with us, people will understand that their origins really start with them being cave dwellers in Edom. That's where it starts. So we have to sit back here and reshape everything we got. Yeah, we're in Greece. We didn't have no history, but there was a history before us. We don't want to claim that history. We want to claim the history of being cave dwellers. Will people be able to sit back and say, yeah, the Macedonian really lies back to Esau, and Esau was really in Mount Seir, land of Nod, Caucasus Mountains. Their habitation was always mountains and rocks and caves.
Yep.
That's where your history was. It wasn't in Egypt. It wasn't in the Chaldea, Babylon. It was up in a cave, your local cave. And you didn't have language. You didn't have history. You were just sitting back here carving your ass off. You were just wood carving, rock carving. That was where your history starts and ends. Okay? So read that part again, verse 10.
Verse 10. For Aman, a Macedonian, the son of Amadatha, being indeed a stranger from the Persian blood, and far distant from our goodness, and as a stranger received of us.
She was a stranger of Persian blood. He was not connected to us. They were their own people. Now hold this, we'll go back to it. Go to Genesis 36. Genesis 36, verse 8 and 9.
Genesis chapter 36 and verse 8. Thus dwelt Esau in Mount Seir. Esau is Edom.
Esau was born, or their Esau's land that was allotted to them was Mount Seir. Esau's Edom. Read on.
And these are the generations of Esau, the father of the Edomites, in Mount Seir.
Jump to verse 16.
Verse 16. Duke Korah, Duke Gatan, and Duke Amalek.
Duke Amalek. Amalek was one of the families of Edom. So, and we also know that Amalek ends up being the main tribe of Edom down the line. But Amalek was locked right into Esau. They were Edomites. And we understand that Haman, or Aman, was an Amalekite of the line of Agag, the kings of that region. And now we're understanding in Esther 16 and 10 that Haman was a Macedonian or a Greek. They don't want to sit back here. Esau doesn't want to sit back and align their history to being Edom. Because that relationship is a super downer. And who wants to sit back and align yourself with a nation of Cave dwellers. Yes, sir?
Now say we destroy the narrative.
It will destroy their narratives of education and intelligence and enlightenment. You can't sit back here and push that angle. Not no more. Okay? We're going to sit back real quick and go to 2 Kings chapter 14, verse 1 and 7. Let me get there real quick. Because we have a history of dealing with Esau all throughout time and going to war with them and having beef with them and having confrontations with them. So, 2 Kings chapter 14, verse 1 and 7.
2 Kings chapter 14 and verse 1. In the second year of Joash, son of Jehoaz, king of Israel, reigned Amaziah, the son of Joash, king of Judah.
So listen, Amaziah was king at the time. Go verse 7 now.
Verse 7. He slew of Edom in the valley of Salt 10,000.
He sat back here and killed 10,000 Edomites in the valley of Salt. Read on.
And took Salah by war, and called the name of it Joktheel unto this day.
When you sit back and look at the city Salah, Salah was really present day Petra. So what Amaziah did, you can see, if you look online, we got a picture of it. Amaziah took out that cave fortress. You see it down there, that cave fortress? He took that cave fortress out many years ago and changed the name of it and called it Joktheel. But really, it wasn't even Salah, it was called Petra. Now maybe Petra was a name that was later used, but Salah was that original name. But they took out Edom in their cave dwelling. Okay? So once again, we've had this back and forth with Edom from the beginning of time. But Edom was always connected to these mountains, to these caves, and to these rocks. That's what they've been known for since the beginning. Okay, so read verse 7 again.
Verse 7. He slew of Edom in the valley of Salt 10,000, and took Salah by war, and called the name of it Joktheel unto this day.
So listen, we have a history of taking out Edom in their home, in their caves, and as the Greeks have been trying to frame their history, frame their knowledge, and establish themselves as this elite, top-notch kingdom, you can't bring this in here because nobody's going to sit back and respect you. The crazy thing is, there's other pictures of Esau. You sit back here and look at these images. This is really their history. If you look at this picture, this is a picture of Esau in Germany. Okay? And when you sit back and see these outfits, they look like they're outfits. You guys, I'm going to wait till y'all get on here. I advise y'all go on here and look at this. Because you sit back and see this, it's a tapestry in Germany. When you see this tapestry in Germany, you think that the characters in the tapestry are wearing clothes. But these people in the tapestry are not wearing clothes. What they're doing, that's all the little stringy stuff, that's their hair. They're not wearing fringes, that's hair.
Yeah.
And also, you look at their toenails. They have claws. They have claws on their toe. This is history. This is not a war painting. This is the house last night. This is literal art.
This is Wild Men and Moors in 1400 Strasbourg, Germany.
In Strasbourg, Germany.
And it's actually a bigger picture.
It's a large tapestry.
It's a long tapestry. But it gives you the history in that time period of black royalty in Germany having these clashes with
these Edomites, or these Greeks. They just call them different names, Edomites, Greeks, but look at their hair is off the chain. This is all hair, bro. It just is what it is. It's not an outfit. Like when Esau in Genesis 25 says it's all over like a hairy garment. That's what it is. This is a garment of hair. This is hair gear.
Yeah.
This is hair gear. And there's another one. Let's go to this one.
Like cavemen.
And this is another picture of them with different squiggly line here.
Yeah.
And then what you're seeing is they're these Edomites with their shoes off, with their toenails flowing out, and they have war garments on, or they have sticks, and not even war garments, they have sticks and hairy bodies on. And they're going to war against dark-skinned people in castles.
So it shows you
That's history.
who was where.
Who was on top?
Who was where.
Yes, at one
what
time.
degree of society at this time, what strata were they at? Were they on the lower strata or the upper strata?
I know.
We were on the upper strata. They were on the lower strata. But they cannot push this because this conflicts with
The
their
narrative.
narrative.
The narrative that we're the superior race.
Exactly.
Or the superior people. This was Esau more times than not in early history. Now as history changed and evolved, the roles reversed. And we're the ones who are subject on the lower level. But look at what they were wearing, bro. This is a hairsuit with no shoes on. And the people on the right, they have shoes. They're clothed properly and they're black. This is history. Like I said earlier about Britain. Britain was split up black and white. France, Spain, Germany, it was all the same. Kinda. So this is the history that Esau has been running from, that they don't want to align themselves to. So they want to sit back here in their head when they were the Greek Empire. We have a fresh slate. Let's start here. We don't want to go back to our cave dwelling days. We don't want to sit back and create that impression of that's where we were. So that is an aspect of why they had to keep tearing down our validity. Because we knew exactly who they were. And we knew that some of our brothers and sisters were up in Europe also. We knew that, hey, we have our Macedonian brothers are out there. They follow the law. They know about us. So we knew about their history more than they did. We had written records of the fact that we were over there in Greece and over there in Europe. And they were there too. So they have to sit back and disqualify us as much as possible to maintain their lives. Kinda. So this is real history that Esau had to fight to maintain their position and their respect worldwide. Okay? And also on that point about the Macedonians or the Greeks are tied into Edom, there is another book called The Atlas of the Roman World, and it's page 17, and it's a brief paragraph that talks about the foundation of Rome. The beginning of Rome have been the object of inquiry, speculation, and controversy since historical writing first began. No, it wasn't. It's not that deep. You know, how Rome was established is so deep. It's such speculation and controversy. No, it isn't. It's very simple. It says, as early as the 5th century BC, Greek historians included Rome amongst the foundations of the Trojan hero Aeneas, who was thought to have fled to Italy after the sack of Troy. Aeneas was in fact only one of the several mythical adventurers who were said to have wandered around the western Mediterranean and to have found settlements along its shores. Whether any historical reality lies behind these legends is doubtful, but they were popular with the Greek reading public and eventually took root in Rome. What he's telling you is that, listen, Aeneas was an Edomite that was a Greek. He left Greece, went to Rome, and started his own new people. And that's it. There's nothing more deep to these people. Romans are Greeks. They're the same people that speak a different language. That's it. And the Romans came down. The Roman guy, Aeneas, he was Greek. He came to Rome, became Italy, called himself Roman, learned the language of the Etruscan people. And then him and all his people grew and gathered armies and got strong, and they took over Rome. It ain't no deeper than that. But these Romans are the Greeks. So the Romans, the Greeks, the Macedonians, they are Edomites. And that's how you prove it. That's how you prove it without having to just attack on color every 5 minutes. The red and hairy garment. That's a great one too. You can go to Genesis 25, or you can just simply say biblical history tells you Haman was an Edomite, he was an Amalekite, and he was a Macedonian. Boom, 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 boom. That's how you prove Esau is are white people today. How can you run from that? Unless you try to discredit the Bible. And if you try to discredit the Bible, I can't talk to you anyway. We have nothing to say anyway. You want to be the philosophical person. Cool. That's cool. Well, I'll stick to my antiquities that actually matter. And you stick to your 2,000-year-old history that matters to you. And that's how you got to. That's how you have to stand firm. You're plagiarized history, and I'll stick to the history that actually matters on our side. So that's just a way to kind of go at these people. But this is what they're hiding and running from in their portraying of the Greek society to be this elite knowledge base, because it ain't. Okay, we're going to let that go and go back to the Josephus and against Apion. And we're going to go to chapter 1, paragraph 3.
Chapter 1, paragraph 3.
Josephus against Apion, paragraph 1, chapter 3.
Chapter 1, paragraph 3. Yes, sir.
That's line 15.
Okay. Read that, sir.
Said it was paragraph 1.
Chapter 1, paragraph 3.
Line 15. How could it then be other than an absurd thing for the Greeks to be so proud, and to vaunt themselves to be the only people that are acquainted with antiquity?
And if that's not pride, I don't know what is. How they want to mask the reality of their history and portray it in a way that they're the only ones that matter. Read on.
And that have delivered the true accounts of those early times after an accurate manner.
Mm-hmm.
Nay, who is there that cannot easily gather from the Greek writers themselves that they knew but little on any good foundation when they set to write, but rather wrote their history from their own conjectures,
from their own opinions, their own beliefs. They wrote their history based off their own beliefs, but no real foundation of information that was theirs. Okay, we're gonna let that part go. And let me see.
Not facts.
Not facts.
Conjectures. Not the same thing.
So what they've kind of surmised, like hypothesis.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna let that go and go to chapter 1, paragraph 5.
Book 1, chapter 1, paragraph 5. There must therefore naturally arise great difference among writers, when they had no original records to lay for their foundation, which might at once inform those who had an inclination to learn, and contradict those that would tell lies. However, we are to suppose a second occasion besides the former of these contradictions. It is this, that those who were the most zealous to write history were not solicitous for the discovery of truth.
It says the ones who were quick to write a story weren't focused on writing the truth about the story. It was about just getting the information out. That sounds like media today. It's about getting the information out, not about being true. It's about sitting back here. How can we spin a story to keep the narrative the way we want to versus seeking for truth? News media isn't about the truth. It's about establishing a narrative. It's about establishing. Listen, when you sit back here, I've been watching this like the news on the war in Ukraine for like 2 years now. Literally, for the first year and a half, they were writing puff pieces about how the Ukrainians are kicking the Russians' tail, how the Russians were sitting back here having to take computer chips out of washing machines to put into their missiles and to put into their military weaponry. And they said, and they were saying that all these economic sanctions on Russia was crippling Russia, and that they were sitting back here and the Russians were hijacking Colombians and making them sit back here and go to war. All that stuff was what the Ukrainians were doing. The Ukrainians were taking people, snatching them on the streets. They don't tell you that there was 1 million dead Ukrainians. You ask Zelensky, they've lost less than 100,000 men. They've lost 1 million. Can you imagine 1 million men are gone? And it's so bad, they're taking men my age to war. What am I going to do, bro? How long am I going to be running, bro? They're taking 40. You see guys on the front line with hairlines back to here. Like, what the hell is going on, The hairlines are here on these massive cowlicks. Like, there's no way this guy's 25 years old, bro.
He's 25.
This guy's body's on fire right now, Cold. Joints is all jacked up. This guy got sciatica and got to dig trenches. But they're sitting back here saying, oh, yeah, we're winning the war. For 1.5 years, they were saying the Ukrainians were winning the war. And then all of a sudden, things are so bad they got to start sprinkling. The tide has changed in the war. The tide never changed. They were losing from the jump. But it's letting you know that the people in charge of writing, they just write for the narrative. They don't write for truth.
Their job is to satisfy the aim or the direction of the higher forces
that are paying them.
Yeah.
What people don't realize is that the people that are the writers and the news pundits, they're the ones, hey, who wants to sit back and take the deal to write bogus news and get famous?
They're for sale.
That's really what they are. All these household name news pundits, they're for sale. And they're going to sit back here and write and put stories together that fit the narrative. And you can't get that job if you're not going to fit the narrative. The writers of this time weren't going to get the job and get financed to write these and get publicized and back unless they were pushing the narrative. It's the same thing back then as it is now. They got to spin a story. They got to tell a story a certain way, and we'll back you if you push this direction that we're trying to take you. It's not about truth.
And when you try to be a journalist, you have to go through some type of psychological test. They put you through a psychological test to see if you fit their parameters of what they can use or who they can use to be one of their pundits. So they have a psychological framework where this person can be a journalist. This person cannot. Well, what's it based on if they're telling lies every day? Are you affected by this issue? Are you affected by the narrative? Does it bother you? Can you live with yourself? Okay, we can advance you.
Yeah.
Into our corporate.
If you don't have a conscience.
Into our corporate machine to create this cycle of information. They go on the fear cycle. They go on the false prosperity cycle. They go on the spin cycle. They go on the promotion of these different agenda cycles. They have scripts. And they also do the same thing from the highest journalists to the small journalists to the local journalists. It's a network of people that get a script. And they have to stick to that script. Yeah. And the locals are like, well, I love my news anchor. He's a good guy. Then they look at the higher news. Well,
you ever see that meme on Twitter where it's like 50 news pundits all across the United States are saying the same thing?
Exactly.
They have the same script. It's like a 2-minute script, and they're all saying the same. We're like, wow. It is the exact same script. Everybody is giving.
Yeah.
It's not about truth. It's setting the tone to get everybody to see things a certain way. That has more power than truth. And this is what Esau's been doing from the beginning. It's not about truth. It's about establishing a narrative. Let's go back to that part. It says that those who were the most zealous to write, thou one.
It says, I'm sorry, it's okay, line 24. However, we are supposed a second occasion besides the former of these contradictions. It is this, that those who were the most zealous to write history were not solicitous for the discovery of truth, although it was very easy for them always to make such a profession. But
they're saying it's about truth, but it's not about truth. They're saying it's about getting the facts out, but it's not about getting the facts out. It's just about creating a narrative. Read on.
But their business was to demonstrate that they could write well and make an impression upon mankind thereby.
And when you sit back and read these articles, like, man, these guys sound smart.
They're persuaders.
But you know why? But they're persuaders because we write well. We write well. We set the tone right. Our penmanship is right. Our tone is right. And because our tone is right and our writing style is so sophisticated, you're going to buy into it.
And this is what I say, the pen is mightier than the sword. Because I can use the sword to put you in subjection, or I can use the pen to put you in subjection.
And this is why the newspapers and all the propaganda is how the world is sustained. How the hell can the United States be an imperial colonial empire, but then be I guess persuaded to think that America is the big brother of the entire world, and America is really out here to protect and defend the innocent? That's what propaganda tells us. Yeah. But what you see is that America is an imperial power that colonizes smaller, weaker countries to subject themselves to getting better deals in their natural resources. That is what America is. They're no different than Britain was. It was no different than Germany and Russia and all these countries and France that have controlled countries over time. There's no difference. But people look at America, or especially they used to in the 80s and 90s, that America was on the side of justice and the American way acting. You know, God, apple pie, and America act.
Yeah, and baseball.
And baseball act. And they're the defenders of the world. That's not the case. And that's not the case.
That's the thing about it.
But you know, the writing and the communication and the media sounds so on point. You want to do it. And it keeps you from searching for what? Truth. This is what he's saying. People stop searching for truth. They're just listening to your words and how fancy and smart you sound. So go back to, but their business.
But their business was to demonstrate that they could write well and make an impression upon mankind thereby. Because
there's no doubt Esau's wordy, overly articulate, overly educated, and that overwhelms people. When people are using all these big words and these fancy words, like, man, this guy's on a level. He's on a level. I have to respect this person because the words he's saying sound like they're on a more educated level than me. Then what he's saying must be true, right? And that's the point. It's not. Just because he sounds educated doesn't mean he's speaking truth. Read on.
And in what manner of writing they thought they were able to exceed others, so that they apply themselves.
He says, in what manner of writing they thought they were able to exceed others. And they were. Their writing style and how clear they were able to explain things, they superseded a lot of other people's more simple, to the point way of communicating. And how they communicate with people is how they have an advantage over people. They sit back here, you see Russian people, they sound like they're crude and they're rude and they don't have the words. Everything is rough. Well, you hear the American dialect, it sounds smooth and it's clear, and you know, we're about respect.
Like the French.
Kind of. But the Russian, they sound like they're just a bunch of killers and thugs. But listen, on the outside at least, there's an attempt to keep Judeo-Christian values in Russia and not here. Mm-hmm. But when you listen to how things, truth and justice and American way and love to all people, it sounds better than the Russians' position.
It's semantics and poetry. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they're good at
what is it again, man? Give me the word.
It's semantics, which is using words and using words to manipulate people and play word games.
Yeah.
And then it's poetic. They're using poetry at certain times of the year. They'll start speaking in poetic terms before you go to war. In the old days, they will start speaking like MLK. They start speaking that like JFK. They start speaking this passionate, honorable tone before they send you to war, because they gotta tap into sentiment. And when you study the Greeks, they know about they deal with logos, ethos. It's 3 points they study when it comes to rhetoric. It's called rhetoric, and rhetoric, they have rhetoricians, all right, and they're people that study how to persuade people with information. You can do it with logos, which is spiritual and logical reasoning. Ethos, I forgot what that is. This other one is dealing with character. If I'm gonna look it up real fast. They've mastered this. Logos, ethos, pathos. All right, yeah. Ethos, pathos, and logos are 3 persuasive techniques that can be used to convince the audience. Ethos establishes the speaker's authority or credibility. For example, an author might state their occupation, experience, or establish their credibility, which is I'm graduated, I'm from Harvard, I'm from this location, I'm from Cambridge, I went to Brown, I went to this military school. That's ethos. They're establishing their credibility. Then you have pathos, which appeals to the audience's emotions.
What you doing? You getting deep on the people?
I have to go here, bro.
He's getting deep as hell. He had to break down the pathos, ethos.
Because this is what they do. It's called the rhetorical triangle. It's how they use. They have different modes that they go into to break people mentally. One is they use their authority to persuade. The other one is pathos, which is using their tapping to emotion. You know, we're all red-blooded Americans. When black people get mad, we're all red-blooded Americans. Yeah. MLK, we have to be one people. We have to love together. It's all about the one nation, one grid. And they start going into this poetic stance. They keep talking this emotional language.
Yeah.
And it just takes the spirit off of the black man. And he wants to sit here and dance in the streets and wear Tommy Hilfiger.
We shall overcome.
We shall overcome.
Someday.
Exactly. That's where they go. And then
Tommy Hilfiger.
Yeah, that's what they want to do. Appeals to the artist's emotions. For example, an author might use vivid language, metaphors, and personal stories to evoke a feeling to the reader. We're going to meet to the mountaintop. We're going to go. That's MLK, but Esau is the same thing in their way. Yeah. They go into their poetic language.
Whitman. And all this writing, American poetry.
All streams will come together of man, and we'll all be together, and we'll all rise as one nation. And that kind of talk.
But Esau's dialect opens up for that type of communication.
It touches people a lot. People cry. As a matter of fact, to be honest with you, one of the best of it was what's that guy, Obama? He's one of the best at that.
Yeah.
He had people crying.
He didn't get 2 you-know-whats for black people out.
But he knew how.
He made you think he did.
But he tapped into it where Kamala Harris couldn't. She wasn't skillful at tapping into
it. You better thank it. You better thank it. Corny laugh.
She just didn't have it. Then you have logos. And what is logos? Appeals to the audience's sense of logic or reason. All right? For example, an author might use facts and statistics to make logical connection between ideas. So they'll start manipulating statistics and
the statistics are lies. A lot of statistics are lies. They learn how to bend the numbers and bend the information.
But this statistic comes from this organization.
The rates have dropped for 30%. For that. Like, come on.
You can't argue with it.
It's down. I still don't got a job, so I don't know what that means. My money's funny. Inflation ain't really happening. Yeah, it is. When food costs whatever cost it is, it's all numbers that paint a different picture.
Exactly. Biden says this is the most economic growth we've had in a long time and the most employment we've had in a long time.
I did that.
You're going off of after COVID, and then when COVID kind of faded out, there was a growth in...
You know why? Because the country went in debt paying all these people money to keep the country afloat. So was it economic growth? Or money had to be invested in to keep it from falling? Because nobody had jobs.
So they have the game, and the Esau was we're going into, but the Greeks. The Greeks are wise enough to go to the detail to manipulate masses of people without having to kill them with the bullet. If they're killing with the bullet, they're losing.
You're going to lose eventually. And this is how the Greeks were able to maintain their power for so long. The funny thing is, the Greeks fell apart only because of infighting amongst the Greeks. There was a Seleucid faction and a Ptolemaic faction that warred with each other for so long they had nothing left in the tank. Then the Romans took them out. But the other white guys took them out. But the reality was they had this whole world on lock, buying into the Greek culture, telling themselves that, man, following these Greeks is a better way than following our own culture. They hoodwinked the entire world into thinking the Greek way was a better way. Through all this positioning and posturing and maneuvering of words and philosophy and ideology.
Yes. Because there's different pockets of people and different demographics of people that want to believe different things and want to feel different things. So you have to have the double tongue and the ability to touch and stimulate every. That's what
demographic.
Demographic.
And this is what being a demographic hunting is another way of being a cunning hunter.
Yes.
Because I had to learn to adapt to different environments, different people, different customs, and I got to find a way. What does this person want? And how do I have to deliver it to them to buy me time and eventually influence it?
Exactly.
That's what being a cunning hunter is about.
Yes.
Hunting is hunting really about just killing?
No.
Hunting isn't about just killing animals. It's about acclimating yourself to the environment so you can kill them down the line.
And
remember that Duck Dynasty thing out?
Yeah.
These guys made millions of dollars off of a duck call. Mm-hmm. They created the duck call. I've never heard the duck machine that they have. But whatever I've heard, that duck call, the ducks come. And I'm killing ducks.
The ducks are falling for it.
And
like,
you know,
oh, it's another duck.
I'm gonna go back to that. What's that place that I'm gonna go back to Cabela's at, and I'm gonna get some more duck.
Yeah.
With those duck calls, because I know what you're talking about. I've seen it before.
Mm-hmm.
They do it in certain tones too, certain to like how they like communicate.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they're bringing a certain bird their way to get the bird they want. And then they put the pheromones on, and they dress a certain way, and they're hiding in their territory for hours at a time. The deer feeders, they train and condition the deer to go to a certain spot. They're time machines where the food comes out at a certain time of the day. So the deer learn, okay, I got to come at this time, and there'll be food. But not realizing you can go a month or two, maybe 6 months of eating there, and then deer hunting season kicks in. So you're just used to your daily routine. Pop!
What's happening?
It's the ultimate setup. I don't got to work. I just got to hide in this box. It's normally a box X amount of meters away.
A blind deer.
And you just sit back here and you just wait for the horn size you want. Because it's more prestige if it has more points on the deer's head. So let me find a 14 point. Bah! And that's going to be on your wall, sir, if you get a 14 point.
They even have it for turkeys too. You follow them on YouTube. The guy was like from 3 in the morning till nightfall, sitting there making turkey calls.
Man.
From 3 a.m. to what time?
Till like nightfall.
Oh, that's crazy.
Dedication.
That's they want what they want, and it's the sport of it. But just like they're able to hunt physically and hunt animals and adapt to get what they want, they know how to sit back and adapt and give the words to the people that they want.
That's right.
To disarm them, to push their policies,
to get the vibration out, the people that you need, necessary to once again push your next form of manipulation.
And it's not about truth. It's about getting what you want and pushing the narrative that you want. And this is what the Greeks were excellent at. This is just the nation of Edom as a whole was great at that. And the world fell hook, line, and sinker to it. That's why as evils were multiplied, you had the ability to sit back and take everybody's belief system and history, and you got them to throw it away and follow these Edomites.
Yeah.
How the hell did they do that? They got the entire world to say, man, I know I read this in this book, this Egyptian book, but this Greek book sounds more important, sounds smarter. So let's throw away these Greek books.
The Egyptian books.
Let's throw away these Egyptian books and read these Greek books. How did they convince the people to do that? That is amazing. That is amazing to say our history is trash. Let's throw it away. Let's be like them. It's their writing. It was their pride. And on top of the world, they control the entire known world militarily.
They control the institutions that define the curriculum.
Because back in the day, it was just about, let's get your money. That was what the Persians wanted. They want your tribute. The Babylonians, I want your tribute. The Greek was like, I want your tribute and I want your mind too. I want your mind. I want you to think like us. That's more important. Because if you think like us, you'll rebel less.
Yeah, you can't become an enemy.
God.
Was this the time before they came up with their own writing or after?
This is right at the same time. They just started getting their writing before they started conquering. They just started getting their own language, and that's why Ptolemy Philadelphus was on such a rush to get 500,000 books and to get them translated.
ASAP.
We got to get these books in our library ASAP. Think about this. That's why the Greek library was in Alexandria. How come it wasn't in Greece? Because them boys wasn't reading books. They never were.
The epicenter of information was there.
Exactly. And then from there they said, this is our zone. This is our library. And it was. But what did they do? They took all the books and translated them to Greek. So if you want to learn, you got to learn Greek. This is why in that other book I was reading, the whole world started reading the Greek language. That's how you broke them.
And if you want education, you better learn
You want to be
Greek.
respected, you better learn Greek.
And we look at the old picture of King.
If you're not, you're a barbarian.
Yeah.
You're a barbarian
Stigma.
if you don't speak Greek. You're a lower level individual if you don't speak the language we speak.
You have the stigma of being one of those barbaric tribes that are out there living crazy. Because we read about them barbaric tribes out there. Israel was living really well.
But that's how they break you.
So were they though. But they know how to polish it. They know how to. Esau's good at polishing himself and giving a false appearance.
And this is what this paragraph is talking about. So let's continue. So it said, some of them. Where are you at?
I was going to read.
But their business? Yes. Mm-hmm.
But their business was to demonstrate that they could write well and make an
That's their business.
Yeah, I have to sit back here and show that we're educated.
Yeah.
Writing well really denotes that we're on a level.
Yeah.
Read on.
And make an impression upon mankind thereby. And in what manner of writing they thought they were able to exceed others.
Their writing excelled everybody else's writing. How they wrote, how they put things together. So they could sit back here and take Egyptian books and remix them and make them sound better.
Yeah.
And make the book have a lot more, I don't know. Esau calls it panache.
Yeah, they need a little panache.
Yeah, panache. They give them a little spark to it. Fill it in and make it sound better than what it is.
And when you are the premier society, people relate to your thinking pattern anyway. So they're translating that information into their thinking pattern because people can relate to them because they're the heads of education.
That's the point. Well, they're the ones that got the knife to your throat, one. Yeah. And then everybody got to speak Greek. So now the Greek writing is more enhanced than the rest of the world's writing. They're taking the information and then spinning it their way in their writing style, and everybody falls in hook and center. But it was the writing and the educated sound, how they sounded educated, is how they convinced people also. But if you look through and look past all the writing and how the communication, you realize they're very shallow people.
Yeah.
But let's keep going.
To that did they apply themselves. Some of them betook themselves to the writing of fabulous narration. Some of them endeavored to please the cities of the kings by writing in their commendation.
He says, a lot of writers endeavor to please the cities or the kings by writing in their commendation. It still goes back to the narrative of propaganda. I'm going to write a bunch of stuff that's glowing to the king. Or I'm going to write stuff that's just glowing to the city that I'm in. So I'm going to constantly get backed and funded financially
that's your
because I keep writing about uplifting the glory of Greece, the glory of Alexandria, the glory of the cities in Egypt that lock into the Greek way.
Which is really saying no manual labor for you.
That's the point. I got a job hyping up Ptolemies. I had a job talking about how their thinking and their decisions are great for the direction of the nation. It's just like you're not going to get a primetime spot on television speaking your opinion. You're going to get primetime spots in articles and newspaper companies and media companies by towing the company line and operating the way the company wants you to do.
And defending and being
the company line.
Like Don Lemon. I have to go with this guy. I hate this dude.
Yeah,
but
that Don Lemon. Yeah,
he's a piece. But listen, the whole point is
POSI.
He's a POSI. But it's about can you defend and can you argue and can you debate and can you verbally prove and break whoever tries to counter the corporate narrative.
Yeah. What do you think Fox? What do you think like Hannity is? They got Hannity from Fox News.
Yeah.
Listen, or Piers Morgan.
Yeah.
These guys are all about their way, bro.
Their job is to debate and to
attack people who are going against the company line and the company narrative.
It's very vicious.
Yes, they are very.
They're vicious people.
Yes,
This is why they try to word trap people. They try to shame people and embarrass people. They're constantly trying to show them bad, us good.
Yes.
They do it verbally. That's what those shows are about. Oh man, I'm not gonna go with this guy's idea. I'm not gonna follow this dude. But the people that they're shaming are the people that are having the true direction that society needs to go.
Kinda. And these people are propped up to a position of excellence.
Yes.
Because they're getting paid and sustained to push the agenda of the king. So what he said is the writing is about backing the king's way. It's the same thing happening now.
It's an early form of propaganda.
And that's why we're taking our time here. This is where propaganda really started getting nurtured and fed.
Yeah.
When the Greek Empire got into power.
Yeah.
So it said some of them endeavored to please the kings or the cities or the kings by writing in their commendation. Read on, Taiwan.
Others of them fell to finding fault with transactions.
He says another person was just supposed to be a skeptic.
Yep.
I'm going to find fault in writings. I'm going to find fault with translations. I'm going to find fault with the histories of other people.
For what purpose?
For the gain of the Greek way.
Yeah, my job is to sit here and slander alternative information sources that may be true. I have to have the skill set and ability to be this investigative reporter and tell you why to make you skeptical about the other ideals.
Yep, that are true, but I got to destroy that.
I have to destroy it and make it skeptical. Did David exist? How large was David's kingdom? Was he a real person?
Was it really 200,000? Was it really 200,000 people at that time?
Every time you watch these history shows, it's these guys with suits talking crazy about the Bible, and saying, "Well, the true understanding of the Sodom and Gomorrah story was really about just not having any real hospitality. That's the true." Well, I surmise that it's like you get 5 talking heads. They give you 5 different angles. And then you walk away confused about the subject. That's what this is about. That's a manipulation tactic.
Yep.
That they use consistently because it formulaically works. It's consistent. The average person that wants to say they know something does not want to side with someone that looks stupid.
And that's why the information age, there is a level of safety there.
Yes.
Because we'll flood you with everything.
Yeah.
And how are you able to pick the truth out of it?
No.
Because you're dealing with peer pressure. Peer pressure is a mug.
Yeah.
Listen, if you sat back here when you were young, or even now, you sit back here, you tell somebody some alternative information, and they look at you like you're a weirdo. You're trying to drop the truth, and they're like,
"Oh man, this guy." He got the tinfoil hat.
I have to get out of here.
Tinfoil hat got here.
I have to get out of here, man. It was good talking to you, bro.
Yeah.
They're getting out of here. Or some people just let you talk and be like, And you're just talking and talking and talking, and they're not listening.
You don't match these
They're not
sources
sincere.
of information that get the governmental thumbs up. Education. Remember, they have multiple institutions.
Yeah.
The government, they have educational institution, and they have the journalistic institution.
And you guys said, "Man, you guys are sheep, man. You guys are sheep." You're like,
Yeah.
nah, you're the weirdo guy.
Then they get
Yeah,
celebrities. Then they hire celebrities to agree with them.
Yes.
And then you're out there.
And you have
Everything you say is bad.
You're a weirdo. You're crazy. You're an extremist.
Yep.
This is how they get you.
They find coined terms to weaponize against you.
Yeah. And that's the point. That's why during the information age, they just flood you with info, and you're not gonna be you're gonna be so busy paying bills and working a job, you ain't got time to filter through the evidence and approve the information. You ain't got time.
That's a good game to play to water down people's ability. Because listen, you're the rate of learning is people have a rate of learning, but you have to decipher what's real, what's fake. That's hard work.
I know.
Then there's some that are skillful at doing it, and their job is to attack their institutions, break them down financially, send the IRS on them, break them down, and then silence them.
Yeah. So you sit back here and you talk about what's happening with Russia. Oh, you're pro-communism, man? You're pro-Russia? Like,
now you have a weaponized coin
I
label.
got you. Boom.
I got you.
You're pro a country sitting back here and invading another country. You're anti-sovereignty.
You have no humanity.
We'll show you, man. What are the millions of people that are dying out there?
Oh.
The thousands of people that are dying in Ukraine. You don't have any respect for their families, man. Like, well, guys, what about the treaty that was written in '91? Nobody cares about that '91 treaty act. Look at what they're doing. But when you try to explain why they're making that move, nobody wants to hear the history of that and history. Nobody cares about that stuff. Look at how humanity's being treated now. Putin's bad. The rest of the world's good.
They want everybody in a slave market.
Kinda.
And you know what? And they did it since. I mean, we've been doing that since slave times.
But since before slave
But
time.
I'm saying now we're seeing through this information. This is standard
Operating procedure.
This is modus operandi. This is the mode of operation they've been doing. They just got more skillful at it based on the technology level they had that the Most High blessed Esau with.
Okay.
They got from Satan.
Well, we're gonna go to that in a little bit, but if we get the time, I don't know. It's getting kind of late. Let me see. 24. Yeah, let's do this. Let's go. Hold this. Let's go to Daniel chapter 8. That's a perfect tie-in now. Daniel chapter 8. Verse 21 and then 24 through 25.
Daniel chapter 8 and verse 21. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia.
Now we know in Daniel's 8 that rough goat is talking about the king of Grecia. We went into this a few weeks ago when that goat was rushing against the ram.
Yeah.
And that goat defeated the ram. The Greeks defeated the Persian Median Empire around 331 BC. Now let's go to jump to verse 24 now.
Verse 24. And his power shall be mighty.
So he says the Greek power, the Greek influence is going to be mighty. Read on.
But not by his own power.
So once again, he's telling us the Greeks are going to get powerful, but not of their own power. Well, who gave the Greeks, or who gave Esau their power? Hold this and go to Revelation chapter 13, verse 4. So now we're starting to see how the Most High allowed the magnitude of the Greek culture to spread so effectively. It wasn't necessarily just of the Greeks' own volition and effort. Revelations 13 and 4.
Revelation chapter 13 and verse 4.
Hold on one second. Yeah, read that.
Revelation chapter 13 and verse 4. And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast.
Listen, the beast is the Edomite nation. Edomite nation worshiped the devil to gain that power. They weren't going to sit back and be that world power on their own and have that great of an effect of that Hellenistic Western civilization influence on the world unless the devil gave them that power. So they're saying from the Greek Empire all the way to present day worship Satan to gain that power. And that's how that power took and had such a great influence for such a long time. Read verse 4 again.
Verse 4. And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast.
Listen, Esau worshiped the devil. At least the elites did. The powers that be, the ones in charge of the decision making and the influence and where the money went, they worshiped the devil. They worshiped back then, they worship now. It was the elites of their people worship the devil to maintain that power. Read on.
And they worship the beast, saying,
The people worship the beast. The beast worship Satan, and the people worship the beast. They worship their what? The beast is what? Their influence, their power. What keeps them in power? This is why Jake sits back. What's messed up is we imitate Esau all the time. Either we imitate Esau in his academic arena, or we want to be gangsters like Esau was. Huh? All that gangster stuff came from Capone and them in the 20s. Huh? Bugsy Siegel. Huh? All those dudes, drive-bys. White folks was doing drive-bys first. Organized crime came from who? Esau. We just want the little scraps and little pieces that they leave behind. We've been emulating them in the carnal and in this regular authority positions. Who is like the beast? His power and his influence and his way of doing things, his propaganda. We're always trying to compete in his arenas.
And the scripture says, don't take on the culture of your adversary.
Hell,
That's in Proverbs.
Done.
Don't take on, envy not the way of the adversary.
But that's what we did. We did back then and we're doing it now. We envy his writing, we envy his power, we envy how he processes things, his philosophy. We're constantly trying to fit in. So it says that the beast worshiped the dragon. And he says, and they worshiped the beast, saying what?
And they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast?
Esau's way of indoctrinizing the world. Who actually did it like him? Nobody. Read on.
Who is able to make war with him?
Listen, you can't make war with Esau. His technology has been superior to us. How he's used his technology to subdue us. Listen, you can have all the natural resources in the world in your country, but if you have no way to manufacture it, to extract and manufacture, the resources mean nothing. This is how Esau got you.
Just rocks.
You did just rocks, bro. What are you going to do with that? You just started that in our country. Okay. Well, you're going to be broke.
What are you going to do with that, with those? Like they got new technology. They just found some new stuff in Japan. Yeah, like it's 26 billion. They just found another mineral that's going to help get Japan out of debt right now. So
that's better because they don't got that.
They're celebrating right now. Just discovered. I looked at my phone. A $26 billion mineral, because they have a process now that is it's more. You can get more. You can absorb more solar power and convert electricity than before. It intensifies the ability to absorb solar electricity.
So they have the minerals and they have the ability to manufacture.
But they know. But
extract and
science.
manufacture.
He has the science. Remember, he's the one that learned and mastered the fat of the earth. What is the fat of the earth? Oil and minerals.
And the extraction of it. You can have it all. Africa shit back. Listen, that's what they're dealing with that cat Burkina Faso. Listen, he got gold mines. He has all these mines. But the Brits said, listen, man, we're not going to renew your lease for the equipment. So we're going to take the equipment back. Now, what does that put Faso in now? In the trig bag. Because how you going to feed your people? You can't feed your people without the machines to extract the natural resources to go package and sell it to the rest of the world.
Because it's very sophisticated.
That's what you want to do. You want to be sophisticated, but you don't have the natural. You don't have the minds and the science to do it. So you're screwed. So this is why, who is like the beast that has this intellectual property that they're not willing to give up, and who can go to war with them.
And got the information from the left hand side. I want to pull one scripture.
Well, that was the point. That's why I said he got his power from the devil, from the dragon.
I just want to pull one thing.
Hell, you go for it.
Acts 19, verse 17 through 20. Just real quick. Acts chapter 19, verse 17 through 20.
Acts chapter 19
Yeah.
and verse 17.
Uh-huh.
And this was known to all the Jews and Greeks, also dwelling in Ephesus.
So we're doing Jews and Greeks. Read.
And fear fell on them all.
Uh-huh.
And the name of the Lord Yahushua was magnified.
So Christ is being taught. And what happened? Read.
And many that believed came.
They did what?
And many that believed came.
Read on.
And confessed and showed their deeds.
They confessed and showed their deeds. I'm off. I'm wrong. I need to live by the moral standard of the Bible. Read.
Many of them also which use curious arts.
Was used what?
Curious arts.
Curious arts. These are not normal arts. These are left-hand witchcraft-based gentilic arts. Left-hand spiritual witchcraft arts.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they put it. Read.
Brought their books together.
They have books too. So when they were collecting these books in Greece, what books were they also collecting? They collecting just math books? Esau was collecting different books on different left-hand spiritual approaches to manipulate situations, crops, and people, and get prophecies from the left-hand side, like Nostradamus. And look at Mercury, and look at Saturn, look at these stars, and this is how these prophecies align. This is how the left-hand spirit can bring you this information. This is how Esau got his technology. Dealing with demons directly. Read on.
And burn them before all men.
So they burned these left-hand books before what? All men. So what was Esau doing? He was also collecting the information, or the left-hand witchcraft information, from the Chaldeans. The left-hand witchcraft information from Tyre and Zidon. He was getting this information. When you look at Archimedes, when you look at the story of Archimedes, he was going and he was in these different societies, and he was mastering the different. What makes him great, what makes Archimedes great, was he got the left-hand information from all the previous societies. When you study and you read his history, he was gathering the left-hand information, and that's why he was such a great man. It wasn't just technology; it was technology and left-hand information. That's what made him a powerful figure. He brought Esau a more clear, conceptualized form of wicked knowledge. That's why he was worshipped and praised. And we're just showing you this one city in Ephesus. In Ephesus, one city, they had lots of left-hand books.
Done.
So they're getting mathematic books. They're getting left-hand books. Any form of manipulation.
Yes.
Yeah, any form of manipulation. That's why when you're dealing with governmental figures, you're dealing with all kind of people. They all have two life. They have their public life and they have their private life.
Yes.
And in their private life, they have to tap into their gentilic, seasonal worshiping forms.
Worshiping of idols, the worshiping of Satan, man. And that's how
But
they got their
what?
power.
The dragon. They collect all the books. They collect all the books from the
On the
dragon
occult,
also.
yep. On how to sit back here.
That's what it said.
How to please the left-hand
Yeah,
side.
they mastered occult information, and Archimedes was doing that. That was his job. A lot of his guys were doing that.
Yep.
And these princes, these families were doing it, and this became something they passed down as secret information. Because this is not for the masses. Because the masses can't handle it, and you don't want to get the information out because you want the power.
You want to keep your power.
There's power from the dragon. They worshipped the dragon.
Good. So let's go back to Daniel's 8, verse 24 and 25. It all lines up.
Daniel chapter 8 and verse 24. And his power shall be mighty.
And what the Greeks' power will be mighty. Read on.
But not by his own power.
Is by serving Satan. Read on.
And he shall destroy wonderfully.
He will destroy wonderfully. Meaning, how does a person destroy wonderfully? You destroy wonderfully by not just killing people and wiping them off the face of the earth. You destroy a person's mind. You destroy a person's history. You destroy a person's self-worth.
Complete destruction.
You completely destroy. Like Esau calls it, full spectrum dominance.
Yes.
That doesn't mean you're not breathing anymore. I eliminate all threats, so I have sheep and servants that are willing to serve me. That's how you destroy wonderfully. You convince the mind that the servitude is great. That being taken advantage of, this is heaven. This is a good life. That's how you destroy wonderfully.
Through persuasive media.
Through media, through just all influence possible.
Yes.
We had to come to Esau in one of all things. And now Esau is the great, merciful lender of money and finance and sustenance.
Yeah.
That's what when Biden came in, everybody was loving Biden because they got checks out. Right or wrong. We was getting money out, we were loving Biden out. I love Biden.
So you couldn't afford nothing.
Until you can't afford nothing. That's the other side of it. First 2 years the checks was coming, Biden's awesome.
I don't think that's wrong with me. Cool.
Then all of a sudden, last 2 years, when you had to pay that debt, when the country had to pay that debt,
Yep.
all of a sudden, this is a bad guy. Point is, what am I trying to say? He destroys wonderfully by controlling all forms of media and convincing our people that they're looking after us. Read on.
And shall prosper and practice.
And he shall prosper and practice, because everywhere they go, at least until the end where we're at now, all his democratic approaches have been working. His propaganda has been working. Because the whole world still thinks that America's the good guy. And they're the bad guy. You ever see like the Naked Gun act? When Liam Neeson goes to Iraq act, and he sits back here, he kicks all the world leaders' ass out, and he has Gorbachev in the headlight and wipes off his little mark in his hand.
Yeah.
I knew that could get wiped off by. It's just this one old white man is kicking everybody's ass out. Like all these guys, the Iranian guy is a bad guy, the Iraqi guy is a bad guy, the Russian guy is a bad guy. Like all these guys are evil, and America is the only good guy out here fighting for truth, justice, the American way. People believe that. That's what American policy looked like. That's how they were prospering in that way, and they were practicing it. How are they practicing? Let's go to Guatemala and wipe these people out. Let's go to Central America. Let's go to not Portugal, but South America and I'm trying to think, not Brazil, but Venezuela, and take their oil. Let's go to all these third world countries and colonize them and take what's ours. That was the practice they were doing. Let's go to damn Vietnam and pick a fight. Let's go to the southeast in Cambodia and take their land and take their natural resources. So it says, in practice and shall destroy the mighty and holy people. And we know that was talking about when they sat back here and wiped us out in the Americas. Okay? Read on.
Verse 25. And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand.
Listen, first of all, serving Satan. His writing, his influence, his media, his propaganda, his craft prospers. What's Esau's number one strength? Psychological warfare.
Yeah.
Convincing the world that the type of slavery he's introducing really isn't slavery. It's democracy. Right. That's his craft.
It's actually freedom. It's
freedom. Our brand of freedom is really slavery. We're going to give it to you. You're going to love it. You're going to call it freedom. Freedom of choice. And you know what it is? This is what the craft is. I am going to sell you debauchery and the sowing of the seed of your flesh in exchange for perceived freedom. That's freedom. We're going to be robbing you. We're going to be taking all your natural resources, but women, you don't have to wear your head garments. Dress how you want. Be like our white women. Be like them. Men, you can like other dudes. I'm giving you that freedom in exchange for taking all your natural resources.
You can tap into the Greek way.
You can tap into the Greek philosophical way that really destroys your spirit. But we're going to still steal from you. So there is a perceived freedom there. I have the freedom to do what I want to do. I don't like how these Iranian men don't give me no power and control in my place. I have no rights. So let's do the American way. But you're not realizing on the other side you're going to be a slave still. You're still a debt slave. Yeah. But that's the craft that prospered under Esau's hands. And it started from the time of the Greeks all the way to present day.
It's hard to beat them. Because what's the alternative?
Because this is what the Jews were tripping on in Israel. I can be free. All I got to do is follow these rules and I can come up. This Israel something, I'm still broke.
No more sacrifices.
I'm still broke. I'm still giving up tribute.
No more tithing and stuff like that. I'm going to live my life. I'll just tithe to Caesar.
Good. This is an easier life.
It's an easier, and the path of least resistance, Israel always chooses the path of least resistance.
Good. So read verse 25 again.
Verse 25. And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper.
The funny thing, this is still talking about the Greeks. Read on.
And he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many.
He's talking by his policy of peace. Democracy, he destroys many under the guise of democracy and freedom. Read on.
He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand.
He's going to stand up against Christ eventually, and he's not going to make it. Did the Greek Empire last till now? The Greek Empire was the beginning, but it was the beginning of the beast. The beast, when you sit back here and go to Revelation 13, the beast looked like a leopard with feet of a bear. That's what it was. He's telling you the beast was really the Greek Empire, but they morphed into these other countries. They had these different symbols about themselves. When you sit back here and look at ancient Greek mythology, the way the Most High was explaining the Edomite kingdom, he explains them like the Crimea or the Chimera. That animal that has like different feet, has like serpent's wings, has like a tiger body and a lion face. That's what was being explained in Revelation 13. The mouth of a lion, the body of a leopard, the feet of a bear. But it's all explaining the different elements of this creature that was the so-called white man. Anyway, let all that go. We're going to sit back here and finish up in this paragraph 5 and let it go for the day, bro. So where are we at? Let's just say some of them betook themselves to the writing of fabulous narrations. Some of them, what's the number of that if y'all found it? What's the number? Some of them betook themselves. It's in the middle.
Below line 25.
So that one, hit that up.
Below line 25? Yeah. Yeah, it's not that.
Just read 25, man. Just read it. It's cool. Just read 25 if that's the case.
All right, line 25. And in what manner of writing they thought they were able to exceed others, to that they did apply themselves. Some of them betook themselves to the writing of fabulous narrations. Some of them endeavored to please the cities or the kings.
So some did stories, wrote stories. Others wrote like news media. Read on.
By writing in their commendation. Other of them fell to finding fault with transactions.
Satire and attacks on people's character. Read on.
Or with the writers of such transactions, and thought to make a great figure by so doing. And indeed, these do what is of all things the most contrary to true history.
It's all that type, all of Esau's different type of media has nothing to do with truth. It's all framing it a certain way for an advantage. Read on.
For it is the great character of true history that all concerned therein both speak and write the same thing.
He said history is not about sitting back here and throwing different trains of thought back and forth with people. Truth is about everybody seeing it the right way. But that's not how the Greek thought is, because you can't stimulate everybody teaching one way. So let's put media out to satiate every different group to make everybody happy, so nobody chooses right from wrong, or nobody even knows what right and wrong is. Somebody talk to me, well, this is not how a relationship should be. It should be like this. Like, where are you getting this from?
That's what
TV?
That's what you think?
Urkel?
Yeah. We're partners.
Or Steve Urkel taught you what relationships are about. Right? It's the truth.
Facts of life.
Facts of life. Different world. That taught me how what relationships is about. I didn't see that one.
Living single.
That's what you think relationships is about, right? That old clown dude. That living single was stupid. That guy always made me laugh by this clown bald-headed dude. Anyway, let's continue.
While these men, by writing differently about the same things, think they shall be believed to write with the greatest regard to truth.
And that's the point. He's talking about how Esau sits back here and writes different ways just to sit back and create more chaos. And they think that's true. They think that's respectable writing. Read on.
We therefore, who are Jews, must yield to the Grecians' writers as to language and eloquence of composition.
He said one thing that the Jew can't argue with the Greek is how he composes things and how he writes things were superior to how the Jews wrote.
The aesthetic nature of their writing.
How they wrote, you had to tip your cap. It was better than how we wrote. But the problem, it was better only because it sounded better. But listen, if you eliminate all those fancy words, you can stay on task and not get caught in confusing communications. But let's keep going.
But then we shall give them no such preference as to the verity of ancient history.
He said, I'm not going to sit back here and back them with their history. They might be able to write better, cool, but their history is trash. They're a bunch of liars. Read on.
And least of all, as to that part which concerns the affairs of our own several countries.
I mean, he says especially talking about the affairs of the region.
Yeah.
They're completely lying about the affairs of the region. But anyway, I think we got the point about how plagiaristic the Greeks wrote and how anti-truth the Greeks operated in. And this was a real issue that the Jew had to face at that time. It was a constant attack of the history and the character of the Hebrew people. And a lot of people kind of like broke to that pressure. And so they're trying to acclimate themselves like the Greek way, speak the Greek language, and roll in a way that disconnected us from our ancient history.
I got a post right here. Ecclesiasticus 21:7.
Okay.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 21 and verse 27.
Because the Most High forewarns you and shows these kind of characters and people and nations in the Scripture. He gives you a warning. That's how the Most High keeps the priests and the Israelites and the people and nation. And if we read the Scriptures, we'd be aware and conscious of these situations. Ecclesiasticus 21:7.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 21 and verse 27.
No, it's 7. He said 7 or 27?
21st chapter, 7th verse.
7.
21st chapter, 7th verse.
Yeah, just want to make sure it gets it.
Understand?
Ecclesiasticus chapter 21 and verse 7. An eloquent man is known far and near.
So an eloquent man uses his speech to expand the mass of his influence. An eloquent man uses his speech to expand the mass of his influence. He's known near and far. Read.
But a man of understanding.
The facts, actual concrete archaeological evidence, biblical information. Read.
Knoweth when he slippeth.
A man of understanding, i.e. Josephus, i.e. the priest, i.e. men that know the Scriptures, know when the Greeks and the Romans slip in their information. They can get past the word salad. They can get past the flower of their words. All right? Now, you have to be conscious of this kind of person. And Proverbs goes to this kind of person. Let's go to Proverbs 25 and 26 and 25. Proverbs chapter 26 and verse 25.
Word salad.
Yes.
Proverbs chapter 26 and verse 25.
Read verse 24, then 25.
Proverbs chapter 26 and verse 24.
Uh-huh.
He that hateth dissembleth with his lips.
He that hateth dissembleth with his lips. So what are these different news organizations about? They're all about dissembling and breaking apart people and creating culture wars and division. And then tapping into each demographic's lust to manipulate demographics and nations of people. Right? Read.
And layeth up deceit within him.
Because he has deceit within him. He's using his words to slant and change and give you a different narrative or change how you view people. Using deceit. Read.
When he speaketh fair.
When he does what?
When he speaketh fair.
When he's eloquent and masterful with his writing.
And words.
And his words. When he speaketh fair, meaning beautifully. Read.
Believe him not.
Don't believe him. Why?
For there are 7 abominations in his heart.
Because behind the flower and the bouquet of his words is 7 different negative, spiritual, deceptive, destructive, corrosive thought patterns right behind the bouquet of his words.
Mm-hmm.
Be kind.
Bro.
Be fair to all men. Love all men. You're supposed to be loving people, but you're twisting the concept. It's not, you know, we have to, it's about the freedom of the children. No, you're twisting the concept. It's about Operation Freedom. We had to save someone. You're twisting the concept. You're taking a statement that a simple person a one-dimensional thinker would look at this. No, this is right. This is good. There should be freedom for all men.
Yep.
And then, you know what? We need to help these people have civil rights. And then you're switching the story and the narrative, and you're taking away this guy who got killed by the police, and you're pushing a whole different agenda and ideology behind it. Breaking the nuclear family. What is that but 7 different abominations? 7 means a complete amount. So this is the power of the Greeks. They're using words, get you to agree to it, and then they use semantics, they change the words, and they push in their 7 different philosophies behind it. And you already agreed that you would support it. The Most High warned you about these kind of spirits.
Got that. Good enough?
That's it.
So we're going to sit back here and send our prayers up. I think the point was drilled. We have an idea of how the Greek is like and how they still are. And next week we're going to go into even through their deception and even through their wicked devices, the Most High still showed mercy on us with how the Most High dealt with us during the reign of Ptolemy Philadelphus. We're going to go on to the reign of how we got dealt with by his father, which was dirty. The Most High had mercy on us with Ptolemy's Philadelphus. Then we're going to start working our way to how Hellenism sort of breaking us down the line. So we're going to go into that. Ptolemy was in the 300s, but we can tell by the time we got to the 160s how the Hellenism was breaking our ego and our psyche.
Yeah.
But we're going to that. But I hope going into these last 2 weeks will kind of give us the proper understanding as to the magnitude of Hellenism and what it did globally around the earth.
The spirit behind it.
The spirit behind it and how it really affected us. So we're going to send our prayers real quick. Amajim Wapanya, Yerah Shalom.
This light is crazy, bro.
Huh?
You gotta get it.
Lights is important, bro. It's important. You gotta have it.
It's crazy, bro.
Okay. Yahweh. In the name of Yahweh, please listen to us right now.
Listen to us right now.
Send Michael.
Send Michael.
And the righteous angels.
And the righteous angels.
To watch over. Bless. Heal. Protect. And make strong. The people of Yahshua. Also send unto us. Much knowledge. Much understanding. Much patience. Much faith. Much brotherhood. And much love. Spiritual power. And forgive all of our sins.
Forgive all our sins.
Yahweh shall come quickly. For indeed is our hope. Always. And forever. Amen. Barak Yahweh by Shem Yahushai.
Barak Yahweh by Shem Yahushai.
Hahawa. Nothing Hathawara.
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai that gives us the law.
Barak Yahweh by Shem Yahushai.
Barak Yahweh by Shem Yahushai.
Hahawa. Nothing
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai that gives us the light to see.
3. Barak Yahweh by Shem Yahushai.
Barak Yahweh by Shem Yahushai.
Hahawa. Nothing
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai that gives us the ram's horn to call the people.
4. Barak Yahweh by Shem Yahushai.
Barak Yahweh by Shem Yahushai.
Shimon, Zayat, Ramashach,
Yashala. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai that gives us the olive oil to anoint Israel.
Okay. Psalms 92. It is a good thing to give thanks unto the Lord.
It's a good thing to give thanks to the Lord.
And to sing praise unto thy name.
And to sing praise to thy name.
O Yahweh. To show forth thy loving kindness in the morning.
To show forth thy loving kindness in the morning.
And thy faithfulness every night.
And thy faithfulness every night.
Upon an instrument of 10 strings.
Upon the instrument of 10 strings.
And upon the psaltery.
Upon the psaltery.
Upon the harp.
Upon the harp.
With the solemn sound.
The solemn sound.
For thou Yahweh.
Thou Yahweh.
Hast made me glad through thy works.
Made me glad through thy works.
I will triumph. In the works of thy hands.
In the works of thy hands.
O Yahweh. How great are thy works.
How great are thy works.
And thy thoughts are very deep.
Thy thoughts are very deep.
A brutish man knoweth not.
A brutish man knoweth not.
Neither doth the fool understand this.
None of the fool understand this.
When the wicked spring is the grass.
When the wicked spring is the grass.
And when all the workers of iniquity do flourish.
When all the workers of iniquity do flourish.
It is that they shall be destroyed forever.
They shall be destroyed forever.
But thou Yahweh. Art most high forevermore.
Art most high forevermore.
For lo thy enemies.
For lo thy enemies.
O Yahweh.
O Yahweh.
For lo thy enemies.
For lo thy enemies.
Shall perish.
Shall perish.
All the workers of iniquity.
All the works of iniquity.
Shall be scattered.
Shall be scattered.
But my horn shalt thou exalt.
But my horn shalt thou exalt.
Like the horn of a unicorn.
Like the horn of a unicorn.
I shall be anointed.
I shall be anointed.
With fresh oil.
With fresh oil.
Mine eye also shall see.
My eye also shall see.
My desire.
My desire.
On my enemies.
On my enemies.
And my ears shall hear.
And my ears shall hear.
My desire.
My desire.
Of the wicked.
Of the wicked.
That rise up against me.
That rise up against me.
The righteous shall flourish like the palm tree.
The righteous shall flourish like the palm tree.
He shall grow like a cedar in Lebanon.
He shall grow like a cedar in Lebanon.
Those that be planted in the house of the Lord.
Those who be planted in the house of the Lord.
Shall flourish in the courts of our power.
Shall flourish in the courts of our power.
They shall still bring forth fruit in old age.
They shall still bring forth fruit in old age.
They shall be fat and flourishing.
They shall be fat and flourishing.
To show that the Lord is upright.
To show that the Lord is upright.
He is my rock.
He is my rock.
And there is no unrighteousness in him.
And there is no unrighteousness in him.
By Shem Yahushai.
By Shem Yahushai.
Psalms 133. Shayar, Hamayawa, Latuwa, Hana, Ma, Tawa, Wama, Naayam, Shabbat, Akim, Gum, Yachad, Kashaman, Hatawa, Ayel, Hawaash, Yarad, Ayel, Hazakwan, Zakwan, Aharan, Shayarad, Ayel, Payah, Madawathyawa, Qatar, Haramwan, Shayarad, Haroria, Tazayawan, Kaya, Sham, Tazawa, Yahweh, Habaraka, Kayayim, Hadwaram, Bashem Yahushai.
Psalm 133. Behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. It is like the precious ointment upon the head, that ran down upon the beard, even Aaron's beard, that went down to the skirts of his garments, as the dew of Hermon, and as the dew that descended upon the mountains of Zion. For there the Lord commanded the blessing, even life evermore. Amen.
Amen. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai.
Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai.
Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Wa'achanawa. Wa'ashralim. Wa'biyaf. Support. Return. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Wa'achanawa. Wa'ashralim. Wa'biyaf. Support. Return. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Wa'achanawa. Wa'ashralim. Wa'biyaf. Support. Return. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Wa'achanawa. Wa'ashralim. Wa'biyaf. Support. Return. Birthday hope.
Birthday Yahweh.
Birthday hope shot.
Birthday Yahweh Shai.
Birthday hope.
Birthday Yahweh.
Birthday hope shot.
Birthday Yahweh Shai.
All knowledge, all wisdom, all understanding, all mercy, all power is from Yahweh. All power is from Yahweh. All power is from Yahweh. Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Tawada, Tamyat, Aman.
Aman.
Circle up.
Circle up.
Saluting out in the heavenly order. Wa Khan
No, Yahweh.
Yahweh, Wa Khan Yashala, many Israel, Amadra. Barak.
Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Barakatam.
Kwam Yashala.
Kwam Yashala.
Kwam Yashala.
Kwam Yashala.
Kwam Yashala.
Kwam Yashala. Yes, Rita.
Saluting out the daughters of Zion, many of Israel, Amadra. Barak.
Yahweh Shema Alatham Ba'ashem, Yahushai. Yes, Rita.
All right.
Dismissed. Voila. All right, y'all. The Water for tuning in. See y'all on Monday.